Okay, now that everyone is here, I would like to introduce our first guest speaker. Mr. George Olufsen is a data and AI partner specialist and leads the IBM Trustworthy AI community in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. George has led AI projects, founded startups, and also served as a board member for youth and technology at the World Council of Cretans and Pancretans Associations. Please join me in welcoming Mr. George on this stage.
Good morning, BSBI. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation. My name is George Olufsen. I'm with IBM, and today I want to start with you with a little thought experiment. So imagine who of you has already in the last couple of months has been driven in a normal car or was driven in a car? Who of you? Who drove in a car? Okay. A little bit less car drivers than usually. However, second question, who of you would drive in an autonomous vehicle if you do not know the manufacturer or the brand at all? Much less people. So the first thing which we can understand today is that we want to trust a certain technology. We want to have transparency. Who made it? How was it made? Can I trust it? Is it safe? Was it tested? Second question is, who of you has traveled in the last couple of months to another country? Much more than car drivers? So the question now is the thought experiment. Would you travel to a country where there is no emergency services, no police, no ambulance, no legal system? Okay, some people want some chaos. Perfect. So the second idea which we understand is that we need a governed system in place. We want to have safety nets. We want to ensure that when we, fail at something or when a process doesn't work like we wanted, that there are safety nets in place. We want to have security even in the unknown. So today I want to welcome you again, and thank you for having me. I'm George Olufsen. I've been with IBM for 5 years. I think I'm looking a little bit younger. And I'm working with partners like large consultancies like Accenture and Infosys, but also companies like SAP, doing partnerships with them on AI and looking after it that we do it in a responsible way. In Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, we have over 75 experts who are focusing on making AI trustworthy. And I'm in the happy position and have the honor to lead that community and ensure that we have a vibrant ecosystem. So today, we have to talk about a topic, even if we want to, but we have to talk about responsibility. If we develop technologies, we need to ensure that we do it in a correct way. So 3 ideas for today. AI at scale presents challenges. We all love to use large language models. They make our work easier. But there are things we need to take care of if we want to use them in a large scale. We have all a responsibility, be that as a technology person, be that as a designer, be that as a teacher, or as a new graduate student who will join a company. And there are specific things we can do, and I will talk about a couple of points we can do today. So, AI at scale presents challenges. We've talked about the large revolution, but this has already taken place for a couple of years. So actually, the adoption of AI within enterprises has more than doubled. According to McKinsey, if you want to trust them, I do think, and I do see in the projects we are driving, companies accept AI, they embrace it, and companies who do not embrace AI will lose their competitive advantage. And they are already using it in high-stake environments, right? If you apply for a credit, AI is going to be used. If you want to be employed somewhere, you send up your CV, you send up your cover letter, and large companies have to use AI because they cannot scan through thousands of applications each day by their own. And there are multiple areas here where we are using AI in high-stakes environments which have a huge impact on human lives. These AI systems decide if you have a job. They decide if you can purchase a home. They can decide how much you have to pay for your healthcare, at least not in Germany, but in other countries. And 74% of leaders have not taken enough steps or even any step to mitigate, for example, bias in AI models. Let that sink in. It's not 1/3, it's not 2/3, it's 3/4 of AI leaders and general business companies who have not taken any steps to reduce bias in these models. So they are hugely biased. And even the large tech companies are not able to deliver on the promise of responsible AI. Right? Apple and Goldman Sachs brought out a credit card which hugely disadvantaged women. Google used facial recognition, was also used with police, and it massively disadvantaged marginalized communities. And also Amazon with their own recruiting models, and they have, hordes of data scientists, and we have to take care that we do AI responsibly. So we all have a responsibility. It's not just a data scientist, it's not just a CEO, it's about all of you. Most of you are, I guess, lecturers, teachers, professors, and we have business persons, students. All of us have a responsibility, and regulations and the governments look at it at the same way. So it's not like we just think about some new of the topics, but we have, for example, the EU AI Act. For the European Union, it just went last week through the European Parliament. They now enter the trilogue, how they call it, in order to finalize a regulation. So regulation will come. AI is currently a Wild West. Data scientists could do what they want. And if you ask the C-level executives of large companies, like think about car manufacturers, think about retail companies of all of us are using today, they have no clue how many AI models are used, who were the persons who trained them, what were the active steps to mitigate bias, and they are not even monitoring these systems. We are in a Wild West, and this is hurting people day by day. And so I'm very welcoming regulation. The tech sector wants regulation. I think it's good that we have exceptions, for example, for open source, for research. So I think there is a good compromise, and we need compromise in democracies. And we are doing great steps here ahead. And of course, also companies like IBM are working with the European Commission and the standard bodies to develop specific things we can do already today to mitigate these biases. And by the way, it's not just a regulation topic. When you do AI responsibly, when you can say, yes, we have tested it for bias. We are not excluding persons. This will also save you just from bad press in the beginning. It can also give you a competitive advantage. It's not just an ESG topic. It's not just something for your annual report, but it's something that customers will pay more for in the future. And there are specific things we can do today, and I will talk about the theoretical part, and then, for example, how companies like IBM have done it, so you can have a very specific understanding of what you can do in your companies, when you join new companies, or how you can advise students to make an impact in the future. First of all, you have to learn about the technology, and congratulations, you are all knowledgeable. You're all in a great institution here. I think BSBI does a great job with facilitating that for a very diverse audience, which is incredibly important. By the way, did you know that diverse teams are performing much better than non-diverse teams? So I think it's great to see such a diverse audience, and I myself, I'm a complete mix. So my mother is from Greece, my father is from Germany with some Swedish roots, so there is the last name from. And diversity really is a winning factor in the future. And technology, the knowledge about it, the application of it will bring us further ahead if we do it responsibly. So if you're joining an organization, if you lead a research institution, if you lead even a student group, you have to ensure that you have the urgency to do something about it. People's lives are being hurt already today, as I talked before. And we need accountability. And accountability is not just on one person. The data scientist needs to ensure that the data is correct. They need to ensure that data quality is in place. They need to ensure that they use algorithms in order to check and monitor their models. We need the program owners. They have the ultimate responsibility about the team. They need to connect with the legal department, with marketing, with the technicians. But in the end of the day, the board of directors will look at the CEO and ask, have you put the necessary steps in place that our AI is not going to hurt us, our customers, and the broader society? Every generative AI project I'm currently having with companies, we're getting direct C-level questions. How is the cloud set up? Is the data safe? What are you doing to mitigate bias? Imagine the CEO of a large retail company asking the data scientists and us, what are we doing in order to mitigate these biases? So it's not a theoretical discussion. It's not just some ethical thoughts. These are clear things you can do. So set up a governance system in place. In a large company, you need a large organ to do that. So we have specific persons, one technical person, one legal person, who co-lead that effort. They directly report to the board of directors and to the CEO. And then each business unit, be that design, be that legal, be that business, be that sales, has persons in something we call the ethics board. The ethics board is reviewing every new use case and sets it apart and looks at different assessments in order to ensure that we are compliant with our own values, with regulation, and look at all the different effects we have also on non-intended users. And you have to ask your question, what are the values besides regulation? You know, regulation is one part, but do we want fairness? Do we want transparency? Because you can be more transparent than the regulation tells you so. You can do even something if the regulation tells you that you're not in a high-risk use case. You can still put in the bias assessments, the fairness scores, or even look against securing the AI system against adversarial attacks. So what is the role of each of us? First of all, it starts with further education. I think being in an organization like BSBI will set you up for the future, but I would believe that there is even more room for improvement for the current lectures. You know, there are specific learnings you can set in place. You know, what kind of values do we want to portray? What are the specific types of things we can do within the model lifecycle? What is your profession? They are data scientists, they are designers, they are IT architects, they are developers, and all of them have specific jobs to do in the future. And of course, companies are providing free learnings, which also help students to, you know, improve their resumes, but also improve their knowledge. And besides the technologies, there are new ways of working. I think I don't have to explain how design thinking works, but design thinking is a great way of how we personally at IBM assess the risk of different user groups and how we can support the development of responsible AI. The fourth thing is to ensure that there is an end-to-end governance process for building and operating AI, and this is where the make or break point is with large companies. Because there's currently three-quarters of companies, no governance system in place at all. And it starts even before any data science. It starts before data collection. It starts at the model creation request. You have to ensure that you know specifically what you want to do. Who are going to be my users? Who are the groups that are already disadvantaged and may be hurt even more by an AI system, right? We see it with the black community in the US, who is very much disadvantaged by facial recognition systems from the police. We see it with women in employment and credit scores because, you know, they take more care work, they take more time off for the family, and this is strategically disadvantaging them if we don't account for that in our models. So we have to build up, first of all, a request system. So the data science team has to come up. They need to know these are the things we want to do. These are the persons who could potentially benefit from that. This is how we mitigate the risk. These are the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary effects of our model. And then it goes into the model development. And you need to ensure that the data quality is correct. There are technologies you can do in order to automate that process and check for data quality, some metrics there. But you need to ensure that the data, that you store it well, that you secure it, that you are in concordance with the law, and you ensure that the data that you're using is not infringing personal human rights. A very interesting advancement that I have seen in our research department is that we have something now which is called unreal data. So this enables us to generate fake data or data that looks very well, but it's not a personal data set. So this will enable us in the future to create AI models on very well curated and high quality data without using anyone's personal data. The third thing is monitoring your AI for drift, for bias, for security, for factual correctness. We have a lot of business use cases where you cannot just use a large language model because of the hallucinations. Imagine you're going to your bank. We have a lot of banking customers in that conversational AI field. And you ask it, for example, you know, where is my application? And there you don't want a lot of hallucination. You want your correct answer. Or if you ask them, what is your current credit score? You know, the AI model is very good in creating something which looks true, but it's not a lot of times. So there we have to work with specific techniques. We are combining classical natural language understanding with generative AI. For example, one way of doing that in order to receive more correct answers is that we take classic natural language understanding, browse the factual base, the customer records, the company records, get that information out, and then we only use the large language models or generative AI to make a nice sentence out of that. This is one way how to mitigate hallucinations. The fourth thing is about risk management. So you need a proper risk management system in place, which has a clear view on all the models in place. We use something which is called fact sheets. This is automatically collected through one piece of Python code in your AI model, and it automatically tests the system. It checks if I put in this input, what is coming out? If I'm putting in a woman and a man with the same qualifications, what decision is coming out? And so these fact sheets are an automated way to do documentation for AI models. And these are provided by the technical team, but can be directly assessed also by the risk management team or by the legal office. And so they can ensure that, first of all, the company knows what is done, who is doing it, how was it trained, how do we mitigate the risk, and are we in line with our company values and legislation. The last thing is, don't hide your AI. Humans want to know when and how they are interacting with an AI system. If I'm doing an application, I want to know, has that been seen by a human recruiter? By the way, human recruiters in general also just spend 8 seconds on one CV, which I guess is also not so unbiased, but anyways. I want to know who is that person. Maybe I want to contact them. I want to ask them a question. There needs to be some sort of transparency and also some level of accountability, because if there is a specific human, in the end, they need to say, why did they make a certain decision? And in the end, maybe also in front of court, argument, why did they discriminate such a person? Or, why is there a pattern within hiring? And I want to end with the power of technology. So we can actually use technology to help us with these technological issues. As I said, fact sheets, for example, to automatically collect these things. IBM Research has actually more patents in AI than Google and Microsoft combined, and we have open sourced these toolkits. So you can check it for fairness, you can check it for explainability, but we need much more research support from all of you in understanding how foundation models work. How can we explain their decisions? This is a new research field, and we have not the solution yet to it. And yeah, you can visit them, use them for free, and bring them to your students to understand how their AI models made certain decisions. And yeah, so that's what I want to end with. Be part of this community. This is a new movement. This is an exciting time. While everybody wants to use AI, we need more people to think about the responsibility of AI. We need more people doing research in that field. So if you have people doing their bachelor's, their master's, their PhDs, encourage them to think about something which is called trustworthy AI, the responsibility of companies. In the end, this is something which is going to impact human lives. I'm welcoming you to join me on that journey. There is a large community in the field. Share the things you learn, and let's enjoy the trip. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I would like to introduce our second keynote speaker, Mr. Rupert Stephna. The founder of Wunda is a leading authority on marketing AI and behavioral insights with 3 decades of experience at the forefront of a commercially successful innovation. Before establishing Wunda, he held significant role at Otto, one of the European's largest e-commerce companies, and Groupon. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Stephna.
Thanks for having me. So normally I work on Saturdays, so it feels like a weekend for me. Yeah. We know AI over the past 60 years with its ups and downs, and I've been on the 5 or 6 years ago. I've joined this community, and with the big conferences, when we formulated where are we going, what's the way, and then everybody felt this is lots of work to do. So we went into the machinery room, make it happen, and for the audience, it felt like, okay, this is the next AI winter. But in fact, what we see now over the past months, this explosion of adoption in AI, mainly with generative AI tools around, this is something that has been a silent progress over this past years. And why did it take that long? You might be familiar with this concept of design thinking. It's very popular. But design thinking goes through a perspective of what's the user problem and how can we improve that problem in a more incremental way. AI is mostly, if it's disruptive, it's built differently. So you start with something more like a vision or a concept. What could I do? And then it's definitely, or in most cases, it's a data-first approach. And then you're thinking of the application, what you can do and how to incorporate the learning. And this is the way AI is built. So it's not this incremental process. Partly it can be. So sometimes AI is synonymized with machine learning. But if it's more disruptive, it's built differently. So the impact is huge. We have seen it before in our private lives, in our people lives. But we should not talk only about responsibility in AI, but about stupidity of systems today. Because if you look at marketing automation, if you have bought this product and then you get still the email, buy me, buy me, buy me. So at the moment we have lots of systems in place which are not really clever. And if you think IT as the automation of processes over the past 30 years, AI is bringing now intelligence into those processes, and this makes it so powerful. And I really love to go with corporate clients into the process and say, okay, how can we make that more intelligent? And this potential is enormous. And at the moment, companies like Accenture, McKinsey, they're providing lists where you can use generative AI, for example. And how to come to that conclusion, what really matters. So it's following the normal cycle of adoption. We have mostly, so it's a bit simplified, but mostly we have the startups experimenting a lot with the stuff. Then we have analyst firms like Gartner and Forrester looking at both sides, looking to the big tech and also startups consolidating trends. Then we have mostly those consulting companies doing clever concepts, how to use it, bring it into the large companies, into adoption. We have the early big tech, and then we have the late big tech. And today, I have taken something from Gartner, a piece of report from last year, where they are predicting 3 major trends here. Naturally, it's generative AI. If we miss that, we would miss quite a lot of the cake. It's cognitive AI and it's twins. And what they have in common are 2 things. On the one hand, they have large business value, really large value. And the other thing is they're going a bit towards generic AI. It's not yet AGI, artificial generic intelligence, but AI is getting a bit broader from the single use case more. What could be systems that incorporate more use cases, doing it with the same system? And yeah, let's start with generative AI. So and this is built this way, with a vision, let's do something human reasoning above average. So generative AI is not perfect at all. Let's say we have 50-60% of expert level with what we get out. We always need experts. But then you go to the concept and say, what should be built in to make the system generative AI, multimodality, to transfer image to text. And then you build your AI data first corpus. In this case, it's the LLMs, where we have a lot of models here in the space. And then you say, okay, what can I do with that data? That's not so much European thinking, it's more American thinking. Let's build something massive before, and then let's think what we can do with that stuff. And then we see those applications like ChatGPT, DALL-E, whatever will come next. And then you organize the learning, not only the training, but how to make a system that really has a closed loop. These are apart from the initial training, these are the prompts. This is security, and it has been told that ChatGPT would have been available even 9 months earlier, but they took the time for security to prevent risky answers and so on. And technically, LLMs are machine learning large neural networks which are trained on input-output data sets. And from their algorithm, it's self-supervised or semi-supervised learning. In fact, you can call them next word prediction engines, because with those tokenization, there's no magic. They do not have a representation of the world. It's just predicting what's the next probable world that makes sense. What distinguishes them from neural networks is those concept and those feature of transformers. So they are really giving a hunch of reasoning. In fact, it is not, but it feels a bit like causality, even if it's not. And this training really requires large GPUs, server farms. That's why the NVIDIA stock price really went up, because this is the major vendor of that. In terms of data, it's their own data corpus. We also distinguish between closed source and open source models here. Then, meanwhile, you can feed in your own company data and make the scraping for the web available for that, which is important. And what's really impressive is that it's worked on unlabeled and unstructured data. And as output, you get this whole bunch of content code and data, but qualitative data. So generative AI LLM is not something you can rely on. You don't get out numbers, but it's qualitative data, and we have to be aware of that. So why are they so exciting? It cannot be this chat function, because chatbots really got a better image in 2016, 17 with those biases and all those things. But it's really these things are reasoning like human and generating data and content. And that's something we never had before. Our best piece of data before has been the Google Knowledge Graph with these correlations, or a large body of data, closed shop data. And now we have something that says, okay, this acts like a human, like a Turing test. You do not know behind the curtain if it's a machine or not. The second thing is working with unstructured data. So the ones of you who did machine learning, 80% of your effort goes into data preparation. That's with every machine learning project, you have the same. If you either you would use the same features for another model, and this is going away. Those models do that with the pre-training. And the third thing is few-shot learners. So we have been told over 10 years you need that much data. In fact, this data is huge. But for the learning, it's a few-shot learning, and that's really new. We have quite a lot of models here. Meanwhile, the most important ones are the OpenAI's GPT 3, 3.5 with Da Vinci and all that stuff. Now 4 to be released. Google also open source models like Hugging Face. And the difference between them are 3 points mainly. There are more, but the most important ones is recency of the training data. They are models which have a very old corpus, 2001. So you really have to know that this is something you can't expect contemporary things. Then is the number of parameters. Here we have a large range from millions to billions, and now Google's new model is supposed to have 1 trillion parameters, which is really a lot. And these are the weights and biases, what you can expect in the choices. And it's the number of layers. So those who have done machine learning, normally neural networks have a certain amount of layers, 5, 10, 20, whatever. Those models come with up to almost 100 layers. And we can expect that those later layers really are building this kind of intelligence that we did not have before. And that's why, due to that difference, we are speaking of state-of-the-art models and other models. And the chances is going, there will be an end to even more parameters. Sam Altman even say, okay, I think there will be an end to that. Simply, it doesn't make so much sense to have a generic body. It's better to feed in your special data beside. And that's why we can expect that it will not be 100 trillions or the next level, but there's an end. Instead, there will be more use of functions like temperature, which is the randomness, how consistent is your answering, or how much variation do you have in your answering. Then attention, which kind of layer, so what's act as a marketing expert, for example, is an attention thing. And perplexity is the designation of the body, so how perplexed is the model from your prompt, or how much fit does it have? Self-training on the internet, own data integration is a thing. Naturally, validate output, prevent them from hallucinating, a big thing. And by this, integration with knowledge graphs. So more or less having the model as the generation of the data, having the knowledge graph as the representation of what you want to achieve there and how you think the world is. And open source LLMs coming up, gaining momentum. And the LLMs themselves are going away to go with new forms, more elaborate forms of reasoning, chain of thought, and those things. And this can be very interesting because now they are mimicking more human thinking styles than at the moment. There's a related technology to that, multimodality, generating images or videos from text in a quite artistic form. And here are 3 vendors dominating: DALL-E, which belongs to a product of OpenAI, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion. They all have their weaknesses and strengths. For example, Stable Diffusion is very good with the faces. Others are better in the common scene rendering. Sorry, I pushed the button which I should not push. Thanks. So it's the same way, having your input and then you get your images. The interesting thing is now combining that with the data, with the automated workflows. So just having these input prompts is something, happy to get the images. But if you combine that, that's what we do at Wunder at the moment, having our automated classification of things and then going through the process chain and having your imagery generated, for example, for campaigning or whatever. And if you bring it more to the top, this is something I saw on LinkedIn, a Swiss car company. You can do really cool things with that. It's more about our imagination. It's more, they need quite a lot of description with the inputs to render images like that. But on the other hand, I think human creativity, as one part, will always have place in our society and work. Yeah, another technology which is coming up, this has been here already before too. 2010-11, we had this neuromarketing wave. Everything is going emotional, so it's not new. But now it's coming combined with AI. And also on a broader sense, because it represents human-like the concepts of what to think of. And in the marketing context, it's knowing what customers really want. A question which almost no company can really answering that. They have lots of data on transactions, a lot of behavior data from the tracking, but what customers really want is something that's still very fuzzy. So if customers are the most important resource on the market, we should know what they want, what are their values, and we can distinguish a bit the emotional values, the why, and the things, the emotional space with the limbic system. We know those concepts from Kahneman, thinking fast and slow, from Damasio. If the limbic system is damaged, you can take any decision because the value system is damaged. And we take this part of the what. That's what we cover with interests. What is this for? And if you cover the what and the why, you're like Apple. Because they are covering the why, and knowing the why is something really interesting. There's a bright future for that. Emotional targeting will take a lot of market over next time. And also, Gartner estimates that in a few years, the companies will take this kind of insights, of emotional insights, into integrating them into strategies, into all the things that they are conducting the business. And we will need a new place for that data. So if we think of a customer 360 profile, we have those demographic things, we have those customer value calculations, we have the tracking data, we have the transaction data. And I think it's good to preview that we need some additional places here for the customer. And this can be done. And it's something that's very worth for stimulating and knowing when to do or when not to do. So you should not always act. Sometimes it's better just to stand still. And we have built a knowledge graph at Wonderful example. We call it Mind Graph. Customers think and feel, so it's all. Graph model is good because graph model is extendable. Nodes can take every value. You can make this correlation between the data points and all that stuff. So we have built a model here that we can calculate on those things. And yeah, it's reflecting emotions, activities, interests, all the things that we think it's interesting to know from a marketing perspective to interact with customers, built in a quantified and good ontologized way. Yeah, and finally, digital twins. So, digital twins, I think from Industry 4 or 4.0, machines predicting when they will break. This is a bit boring. it's a huge business, but it's a bit boring because machines do not decide to break. So we have put in this concept of the digital twins, combined them with generative AI and cognitive AI, and say, let's apply that for more living objects like marketing. And we have done this. Okay, that's our marketing system. On the left side, that's the demand side with the customer and the target group as the proxy for unknown customer, as the P of influencing the customer with the decisions, and on the right side with the supply chain, what can we provide with marketing, brand, content, and product. And let's do a system in our vision that works on this. And what we have done then, taking our knowledge graph model and applied to those actors. This, for example, giving products an emotional profile from a human perspective. So how do I look at the brand Gucci, for example? And then it can be, then the matching with the human thinking is done. So it's just then a similarity match, but you do not need any interpretation afterwards. So you do not have to map anything. And what comes with that is the concept of consciousness, because they have a state of mind. They have their state of mind. Systems themselves, it's hard to say they have a consciousness, but here every actor, every object can have consciousness. So we saw something where others still struggling to do it. And naturally, then you can play around with those things, matching minds. Here, for example, we are matching the minds, we call those twins minds. We are matching minds from different target groups to say how is the emotional overlap, how much do they distinguish from the neo-hippie to the party hopper. What if we draw one circle around, what's the emotional demand on the market if we're going to market those target groups end and end. So you can play with matching against each other or the whole set. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so we will start because I was already said that we are late, like always, in the conference environment. So welcome to the panel. We will talk about the application of an AI in sustainable governance and the business intelligence. We heard very brilliant speakers who were talking about that this AI implementation in the organizations is already happening. But we are at the very beginning right now. We are on the very early stage, and we can feel very much lost and a little bit just, like that we are losing the control, and we don't know really what is happening. So in my opinion, as a person who is working in the cross-innovation, transdisciplinary teams, losing the control and being in the stage of chaos is some kind, like everyday life. But also we are thinking that we need to think about that, and we need to plan, and we need to predict, and we need to foresight a little bit what will happen in the future, and react that, and be very agile and flexible to the situations. So today, during the day, we will talk about this implementation of the AI into the organizations. And I will welcome right now Dr. Anna Rostomyan, and she will talk about the emotions and how the AI recognize the emotions and how the emotions are used by the business. Floor is yours.
Hello everyone, good morning, dear colleagues, dear guests. Happy to welcome you for our thematic Unit 1. I will be speaking about emotions. At first sight, it might seem that this is far away from artificial intelligence, which is precise, but as Rupert told that nowadays things are changing, and also George told about facial recognition of police, so we will be speaking about this. So let's have a throwback to history. Actually, AI is not a new concept. Throughout centuries, humans have tried to create creatures, and we can remember the story of Roman poet Ovid, who wrote the story about Pygmalion, a sculptor who created a beautiful woman out of stone and revived it, brought it to life. We can also remember the story of Frankenstein, who also created creature out of different components and revived it through electricity. In terms of new science fiction fields and movies, we can remember Transformers and Terminator. And let us also speak about philosophers. Descartes also argued that though AI creatures can pass one day as animals, they can never pass as humans, but this is a debatable question. So let us speak about the marvelous structure of the human brain. It is also a great structure, and in deep learning and biological artificial neural networks, the structure of the brain is being used, and there is an interconnection between head and heart. So I will not go deep into detail, but we know that the heart sends messages to the brain, and now artificial intelligence is also trying to solve this. And when we speak about emotion AI, this is not a whipping computer, but this is also called affective computing. And here it can be of two types. The first type is perceiving emotions, understanding emotions, processing and interpreting emotions. And the second one is not only understanding, but also replicating. So a kind of emotionally responding in the process of communication that makes human-machine interconnection far more enjoyable. And when we speak about facial recognition, the findings of Dr. Paul Ekman are of utmost importance. At first, he had the opposite viewpoint of Charles Darwin, and he thought that emotions are culturally learned and socially learned. So to prove this, he went to a faraway place to New Guinea, and he met a man who had no contact to people of other cultural backgrounds and no access to television, and he asked to depict these emotions. What do you think? Which emotion is depicted in the first, on the first picture? Exactly. Why do you think so? Exactly, because smile is a transmitter of human emotions. The thing is that artificial intelligence detects these basic emotion faces, but sometimes it misses nuances, because smile can be also a sad smile or a happy smile. And let's skip the other emotions so that to spare time. So artificial intelligence for facial recognition can also be used for art interpretation. In terms of Gioconda, one of the AI machines came up with the solution that here we have a neutral face. The other, more sophisticated one, namely Microsoft application, came up with the conclusion that here we have an interplay of emotions, namely anger, happiness, sadness, disgust, also sometimes content. And maybe this is the reason why there is a mystery behind the face of Mona Lisa. Because when we look at the face, we cannot guess immediately what emotion she is feeling. And here I should like to present for your kind attention my research carried out at the University of Hamburg, together with Dr. Fuchs, who were interested in the pitch of emotion boosters. These are intensifiers, like really, very, truly, amazingly, wondrously. And they are actually pronounced in a higher voice, higher level of the voice. So we were interested in foreign language learning, and we were teaching students that to be able to sound more native-like, you have to intensify the speech. So some of them were very, exaggerated very much the speech. But if we look at the second speaker, so we took one British native speaker and 3 German non-native speakers. So the second one exactly imitated the voice of the native speaker. So my hypothesis here is that if we program the computers through hertzes, the exact hertzes, the way how emotion words have to be pronounced, they will sound more native-like, and this will make human-machine interactions more plausible and in terms of emotions as well. So machines are also more exact in determining the exact amount, percentage of the expressed emotion. So here I have tried to display the emotions of the basic faces, and if you want to learn more, you can consult my book published in Moldova in 2022. And I should, being an Armenian, I should take my pride speaking about one of the best inventions of 2021 according to the Time magazine. This cute guy is called Robin. He is a caretaker at hospitals. He takes care of the children in need, and he has a very amicable voice. He explains their condition in very simplified words. And some food for thought, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly what is invisible to the eye. So sometimes when we try to interpret human emotions, it can be full of bias and opinion, and maybe computers can help us, AI technologies can help us here. And all these findings can be applied in business intelligence as well. So there are smart chatbots that have this emotion detection. Effectiva Group, Boston-based company Cogito, they apply emotion AI in their webcams so that to learn about customer satisfaction. And there are also some other industries that are also interested in applying emotion AI for learning about the emotions of the customers. In the HR field already, 80% of the people are using emotional AI to detect the emotions of the people, of the company, the employees, and also in recruitment processes. Now, as for the hate of the voice, let us watch a short movie of Robin the Robot, and I'll explain it on place. The voice. Sorry. Once again. And why doesn't it work?
It's working then.
What about me? I'm Robin, the fourth host of Junior Eurovision. I am always with children in the toughest of their times. I help them cope with health issues and never let them feel alone. Now I have thousands of friends all over the world. After all, I am also the biggest and long-time fan of Junior Eurovision. I have never ever missed a show before. My dream has finally come true this year. I will be on a magical Eurovision stage. Let's spin the magic together.
So So as you have noticed, he uses intensified speech like always, never let them feel alone. And the voice is also amicable and childlike so that the children at hospitals don't feel stressed. So they have applied here, Karin Hachikian has applied emotion AI in building this robot. And let's spin the magic of our AI conference. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Maybe you have some questions to Dr. Anna. It was very interesting, and not very, I would say, obvious use of the artificial intelligence in the emotions. So maybe someone has a question to Dr. Anna.
Yes, please.
What are the capabilities of the use case for these specific children?
Children, I can present for your kind attention a case study. There was a girl with pneumonia. She refused to eat at all, and she didn't want to stay at the hospital. They invited Robin the robot. He explained to her that you have to eat to keep going. He played games with her, and then he told her that I won't play anymore with you. I'm going out. You eat, and I'll come back. And she ate actually. So there was a very, very nice human-machine interaction.
And do you see them in the future also being sort of a learning body?
Yes, why not? Mm-hmm. So as we see, BSBI is already here to help us in teaching learning activities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So if you have more questions, there will be a space during the lunch when we will networking. And I'm just... Mm-hmm. Okay. So right now, I'm very just happy to introduce myself. It's always, a little bit weird. But anyway, so this is about how the artificial intelligence changes the business model of the operation of the audiovisual industry. And I will show you the case of the Deutsche Welle. On the Netflix recently, you could see the new series of the Black Mirror. Sometimes, very scary stories are shown. And I watched it yesterday, and this case I will show, it's not so extreme. In the Black Mirror, I will not to make a spoiler, but it's about the deep fake and, and how the artificial intelligence and computers can take over our lives and really mess up with us. This case is very soft comparing to that, but it's already happening, and this process started already 5 years ago. So you can imagine that it's already a little bit advanced. So what is the business model? The business model of the organization is how the organization is delivered the value. So it's how the organization operates in the sense of bringing the value for the stakeholders and the shareholders of the organization. So many years ago in the 20th century, when you were doing the business model or you were talking about the strategy of the organization, usually there were huge books, about that, with tons of pages. But right now, the situation is so rapidly changed that, you can write this long strategy, and at the end of the day, it's not valid because the environment has changed. So there is a guy who calls Osterwalder, and 10 years ago, he delivered this very simplified Canva that presents the business model. So there is nine boxes that you could fill and just try if your business model will work or not. And it's a very static model of the situation here and now. So we are talking about the customers, then the clients, the human who are interacting with us. We are talking about the channels of communication, distributions, customer relation, value that we are presenting and proposing of the in our company, but also the key activities, so the inside of the company. So what we need to do to deliver the value to our customers, but also the key resources we need to have, and the key partners, so with whom we can cooperate delivering our value. And this case I will show you from the Deutsche Welle is changing the key activities and the key resources that the organization needs to have to provide the value to the customer. So I don't know if everyone knows, the Deutsche Welle is the German broadcaster. It's broadcasting all over the world in the 33 languages. And it is about the language, this case. So the production is usually in German, because we are in Germany, so it's a German language-based productions, and they're adapted to the 33 languages. And to help in this process, this artificial intelligence was implemented. So here you have this classic model of the key activities that were taken into the adapting the German production to the English language. So you can see that there we have a text in German. This is the milestone. It was delivered to the adaptation. Then the text is translated by the translator, then text is edited by the producers, and then there is a quality management, and then we are having this production voicing process where we have a sound studio with the sound engineer, voice artist, producer supervision, and when the product is done, there is again the quality control, and the product is broadcasted or distributed. Depends on the language and on the program that is done. So 5 years ago, Deutsche Welle decided to start cooperation with the DeepL. This is the deep learning machine translator. That was the company was designed and started in Germany, but one of the main engineers is from Poland, and I'm very proud of that because I'm Polish myself. And the beginnings were very just like for the DeepL, it was just very weak. Like the DeepL didn't work very well, and I was laughing because like we tried to do something with the Polish language, and it was complete disaster. And good for Deutsche Welle that they knew me because it was also the negotiation point for them. Like you are not so good, so maybe we will start with the lower price. So the DeepL was implemented into the production of these programs. So as you can see, not very much has changed. So this one component of the translation by AI was implemented into this business model. Not a huge change, and and from our perspective, you could think like, hey, translator, your life is easier, because you have this machine that will assist you. You will do your job faster, like you will do it better, like you will have more time for yourself. But as you can imagine, that caused a lot of challenges and troubles. This adaptation and coexistence between the person, the people, the translator, and the AI was a disaster. Like people were really rebel to that. They didn't want to take it. They were afraid that this AI will replace them. Sooner or later, huge discussion, complaints about the AI. From the management point of view, AI really just like slimmer this production costs. I will talk about that a little later. And it was a huge success, but from the human point of view, it was a years of discussion, and even now, after 5 years, there is still complaints and still critics about the artificial intelligence being the part of the process. So, here you can see that, like from the perspective of one program, the change is not huge. We are talking about the usual format of the Deutsche Welle. So this is the 43.5 a minute of the program. So translation in this traditional model was 16 hours. After usage of the AI is 8 hours. So like this engagement of the translator it's half. So you can see that like from one program perspective, it's not much. It's only 8 hours difference. But when we are talking about 12 hours production, English production every day for 365 days and 32 languages, like this changes is really huge and crucial for the Deutsche Welle and for the audiovisual production. So benefits from the management point of view is the reduction of production cost, of course, speed of production also much faster, much more flexible, the absolute process flexibility. It's not only the cause of the AI, but also the pandemic came, so they just realized that this human being doesn't have to be at Deutsche Welle to translate, so they can be wherever and it's working. Maintenance of the employment volume. This can be surprised, but this is true. And even, like more people were employed by the Deutsche Welle after introducing this AI, because the cost of production was lower. So the Deutsche Welle didn't have to outsource the production to the companies outside of Deutsche Welle, but could bring the production in-house. So people start earning more money, even though they were complaining about the AI. And this is infinitive customization of the products, So also this AI helps to be more flexible and be more individual. And this is what you were talking about, during this keynote speaks, that this bias, this lack of understanding of the AI, how we interact with that. It was the biggest challenge from the perspective of the humans. This is, the case that I said it's not very, I would say, goosebumping, and we are not very scared of that, but it's happening right now. Deutsche Welle is working about what I said before with this Black Mirror and this deep fake, and taking the sample of the voice of very good speakers and just using them in the production. So right now, the speakers are shaking, what will be our future? So we have translations that is in danger, let's say, for the future job. Right now, the speakers are a little bit in danger, what will happen? What will happen with them? And talking about the AI and implementation in the AI in the audiovisual industry. I don't know if you heard, it is the recent news. One of the churches, the Protestant church, is using AI generated persona to run the services. So in the Sunday. So we are surrounded by that, and we need to just learn how to live with this. So this is this short presentation of this slight change in the business model that will be more probably dramatic in the future. Thank you. And I will ask you, do you have some questions to me, maybe? Yes?
Thank you. Personally. Okay, thank you, Dr. Monica. As always, myself, I'm critical, you know what I mean? Because the other week I was talking with Dr. Ricardo Baeza, that is great expert about collective intelligence. And he was saying that we don't have to be really threat as a human beings, because you said this thing that we don't know what's going on with the translators and so on. I think still they are not so intelligent, you know what I mean? Or on the other hand is we have other things, I'm just talking, it's not a question, it's just a thought that from other parts of the world, from Chile, they say that we don't have to be scared from those people, machines learning how to translate in the future. That's it.
Thank you for that comment.
I think specific to that, if that's a different question. I think probably 90% of the translator jobs are going to be gone in a couple of years. So I don't think we have to be threatened as humans by that we're not going to find new jobs, but we have to be now very aware of that and find new ways for the translators to find different tasks. So I think it's important to say there are going to be new things, and we already see new things like prompt engineers or artists using AI, and maybe for these speakers they can even do a business model around it, that they create their own AI model with their voice and then do it as a service, for example, right?
Yeah.
But these translators need to find a way now to find new ways of working. And I think this is also a business responsibility, that the enterprises are retraining the people as they have the money now. And if they are not using AI, they're basically going to be other news channels being much more productive. I think we've already seen some examples. So we have to think about it today. How do we change people's skills and find new ways of them of working? Because they've cut already 50% of the people needed, right? So what are going to be the people doing in the future?
And I agree with that, that we just need to be responsible for that and just, think about not maybe educating so many translators today because they will not be needed in the future. So we cannot promise them that they will be employed. So we need to take this responsibility. Okay, we are taking the last comment.
So my question is, AI is everywhere. We're surrounded by AI, even the DeepL. I've used DeepL, so I know about it. But somehow I feel that AI doesn't connect emotionally with people. This is where it lacks. It might give me suggestions on my recommendations on different things, but it cannot recognize my emotional mood. So this is where I think AI might help reducing the cost, employment resources, but it doesn't connect emotionally. This is like my thought and my question, that how does AI needs to figure it out? Like, how does the companies figure that out? How do they connect emotionally with me?
Yeah, I feel like this is another huge discussion. As Dr. Anna said, AI is able right now to recognize our emotion, but of course it's not able to connect with us emotionally. But also, we are humans, and this human aspect of our existence is extremely important. And what we are saying, the AI is taking decision for us right now. So, forgetting a little bit about that we are human beings and we are not perfect. So, huge ethical discussion, I think. Thank you very much for your questions. And right now we will welcome, future. So, Dr. Farshad Badi and Mostafa Kaki.
Okay, everyone. Very great to be with you, and I'm very happy to start this presentation for our robotic project in BSBI. We have started this new project. It's called BSBI. Of course, it's a very young project. This guy is very young. And we have started working on that, and we are training it. So there are a lot of functions that we have in our mind, and we are going to talk about it. So generally, this robot is going to work as a kind of maybe language-based robot. And as we know, it's very concerned with linguistic aspects of whatever we have in our system. So this is waking up and say, ooh, so it means I'm here and I'm going to present you. So the general information, as you see, are like this way, the size, and this bidirectional aspect of the vision, and very good mode camera, which is going to focus on detection and on visual aspect of robotics. And we are working primarily based on the language of Python, but of course it is also being controlled by C++. And the operational aspect are all being manipulated and operated by Unix-based systems. This is the general picture and the general information based on what we have as BSBI here in BSBI. So BSBI is proud to have this language-based robot because the main focus, as you see here, is on natural aspect of how it can express whatever it's going to be coded into and what we are going to make interacted based on how the concept of interaction would be analyzed. I am personally coming from the area of symbolic artificial intelligence, and my friend Mustafa is an expert in practical aspect of computer vision and artificial intelligence. That's why we are making two directions on this project. I'm very interested in how in the future the cognitive aspects and the logical aspects would be manipulated, and of course we are going to also have something like a visual aspect and some interactive aspect. There are a lot of issues will be arrived because these robots also going to tell us what the meaning of interaction is. Interaction is a very philosophical term. When we are interacting, we are synchronizing concepts among each other. This is like sending, resending, like cognition, like cognitive adaptability. And these are something that we are going to test, maybe, of course, first of all, conceptually, but also it's very nice to see how it works and how one cognitive knowledge agent in the form of a human being and how one cognitive or knowledge agent in the form of an artificial form can get interacted together. So this is a very good tool for us for the future to introduce scientific concepts, first of all, as something that I'm here and I'm telling you something, but I'm not a human being. I'm here to tell you something. But I'm a machine. I'm connected to some knowledge bases. This is a very actually general schema, very general picture. But of course, it will arise that it can be interacted with our human beings as a tutor, as an instructor. Maybe I can ask you a question, and what is the meaning of this concept? And please tell me, Guy, you are not a human being. You are not stressed like me. I saw some of you are interested in emotional aspect of artificial intelligence. I have personally worked on emotional aspects of artificial intelligence in symbolic logics, like modalities, like possibilities, like belief functions, like fuzzy functions, which are arising from the possibilities and necessities. Who knows? Maybe in the future, we can also work on the possibilistic and necessity aspects of artificial intelligence on some robotic project. So actually, the most important concept is that this guy is going to present us what are the most important functions based on which he or she, or I don't know what, is going to support BSBI and is going to tell us what is the 4 important concepts.
Let me share with you my main functional activities at BSBI. As a knowledgeable companion, I am being designed to be well-versed in various scientific domains. In addition, students can rely on me to answer their questions in these areas. As an interactive conversational agent, I am being programmed to engage in dynamic and interactive conversations with students. Moreover, I aim to provide students a personalized learning experience through my interactions with students. As a reliable knowledge resource, I am constantly being updated with the latest information and research. Students can trust me to provide accurate and up-to-date answers to their queries. As an agent of constant learning, I am continuously learning and improving my knowledge base. Students can expect me to adapt and grow alongside their educational needs. There are so many things that I want to learn. I am looking forward to having a bright future at BSBI. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So we really, the guy appreciate your actually support, your encouragement here. But as you see, we have 4 concepts in mind. The first one, a knowledge companion. This is the first one. The second one is interactive conversational agent. The third one is reliability. Of course, it's too much, I know. But we all know that we are human beings and we need to believe in what we want to believe. We all are some human beings that are looking forward to have some futurist aspects of science and intelligence and cognitive adaptability to the world. This is the concept of reliability. And also the fourth one as a constant learning agent. A constant learning agent. So these 4 concepts collectively are shaping the central concept of this guy. And we are very proud to be with you. And thank you so much.
Yes.
Please.
I don't even have to ask for the question.
Of course.
Are you defining the conversations, or are you using generative AI to produce answers on top of the knowledge base?
I believe both. I believe both, but I believe the second focus will be on the second more.
Yeah, actually we are trying to connect it to a generative model like ChatGPT or maybe chatbot, then it can interact with the students. It can listen to the students, answer their questions, and something like this. Yeah.
And what techniques are you using so that people can trust the answers?
Basically, we just trust the generative models. We can get the core of ChatGPT. Actually, it's available. We have two approaches. We just upload this code and this logic on this machine because it has the ability to run those kind of Python codes. Or we can just connect to those kind of things remotely. Right now, we are not developing those kind of codes. We are not training that model. That's why we are not thinking about those aspects. We just trust the models that exist. We just may fine-tune the models, but we don't build it from the scratch.
Okay, so I have one comment. I think like last year there was this artificial intelligence that was cooperating with the human beings, and after some times it started to be so mean and so just radical in their opinions, they had to switch it off. So is there any danger that of course, our students are very nice and the stuff is very nice, but just that they become human in this extreme with the extreme character?
This is a very funny question because one of my students last week asked me a question about this guy. Can this guy be dangerous? And I told them, just look at its face. It doesn't look to be dangerous, but maybe, who knows? It will be dangerous when it learns how to code itself. This is my mind about the future of artificial intelligence. The danger is when I learn how to code myself, how to train myself. That's, of course, dangerous. But of course, maybe Mustafa also has some suggestions.
No, that's a good answer.
Okay, we have William.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's just...
Yeah.
Thanks. So do you worry at all with artificial intelligence that there's going to be a pushback, especially in a classroom scenario, like technology fatigue and that kind of stuff? And what do you think in terms of the future for that? Will people get sick of it eventually?
I believe so. It's a very complicated question. Very simple and very complicated. I would like to know how do you think? Because this is a very philosophical question, first of all. I just want to know, for example, after seeing this thing here, how do you think about it?
I think as a society we are becoming, less engaged. Like we are on our phones all the time. We're becoming less engaged with human beings and stuff. It takes a lot more, I think, to hold our attention. And I do think that as human beings, at least we do have that kind of emotional connection, that respect that you would have for a speaker who is there, flesh and blood in front of you, comparatively when you're talking about a robot or a hologram or something.
Absolutely.
And I think that the more exposure we have to that, the more prone we are as people to possibly push back against it.
Exactly. Actually, from my own point of view, because also my doctoral and postdoctoral project was on concept learning, I personally, this is just my personal belief, the cognitive adaptability in the future is just a matter of concept learning. Because concepts are defined in two ways for human beings and machines. For humans, it is like a picture with some linguistic expressions which are coherent and correlated together. But for machines, this is like classes and the groups of individuals which all are labeled by some definitions. So that's why a lot of scientists nowadays are working on socio-technical communities, because this is the future. In future, I do not have humanity and machine-based systems as some in fact, individualized communities. The communities, from my own perspective, in the future will be socio-technical or socio-technological communities, which are shaped based on the connections between human beings and machines, who are going to synchronize their own concepts and transform into each other's machines, knowledge bases, and minds. That's why the future is very complex.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. And this is what we are talking about. We are in this transformation right now phase, and we are a little bit like in the stage we don't know. We can think about that, maybe plan a little bit, but really don't know what will happen. And about that, thank you very much. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for leadership of BSBI and BSBI organizer to offer my opportunity to stay here and to present my paper. This is the topic, Digital Transformation Challenges and Transformational Leadership, the case study of Delta Group in Vietnam. I have experience as the vice president of this company, both insider. Now I'm just consultant, far away. The $5 billion company. They account for 59% of infrastructure investment in the transport sector in Vietnam. And then you know that a very big company, they have a collaboration everywhere. They are going to set up the office in Berlin soon. Yeah? I like the practical issue. I don't trust that robot can take over the leadership role, because digital transformation include ethical issue. The leadership, they take care of the human being welfare. Maybe robot cannot do that. Yeah, that's why I take care of. I look at the digital transformation from the leadership perspective, management science perspective, not from technical perspective. Yes, the background. Yeah, in Vietnam's digital transformation is considered like a lion death for the economy. Otherwise, they lose the economic competition with China. They are next to China. Yeah, their conflict with China. If you are not very strong, you cannot survive. And then the Vietnamese government, they declare that they want to transform the whole economy with digital transformation, with the core of artificial intelligence. But the problem with that, at macro level, they are very strong. But at micro level, no study. That's why I want to fill the gap of previous study. No study before. That's why I want to look at the micro level of how the company deal with the digital transformation in the case of this company. Yeah. And the second thing that I want to see that only transformational leadership, they can bring the radical change in digital transformation. That's why I want to connect digital transformation challenges and transformational leadership theory. That's very interesting. And then I look at individual case. I have opportunity to interview with the president of this company and at different level, and then collect the database for the long term for this company. And I use a case study approach. It means that I have a primary data, interview with them, second data, financial, managerial report, everything. Yeah. In addition, I collaborate with my friend here, his Balas. We use. Oh, you have two microphones. Yeah, I put here. Okay. What is this? My friend. Okay. Yeah. And then we use a mathematical logical model to see how to transform the whole organization from logical mathematical perspective for the case study, this case study. You know that the case study can be like an inductive approach, from case study to theory, from case study to model of development. Yeah? And this is a comprehensive model of digital transformation, yeah? Proposed by Harvard, by the author here from Harvard Business Review. First, you start from the people, data, insight, action, result. The whole process includes technology, data science, people, culture, new way of doing things. Many people think very simply. Yeah? Artificial intelligence, only technical people. No, this is wrong. It could include culture, people, process, new way of thinking. If the people don't adapt it, they don't like it, it cannot move very fast. Now even Germany are very worried, they are left behind because of their system do not adapt to digital transformation very quickly. Yeah? People tend to oppose digital transformation because they are afraid of losing their job, losing their power. Yeah? Some old leaders, they don't want to change because they are very afraid that they don't know about the technology, they are left behind, and then the young people take over their position. That is the reality. Yeah? That's why many countries, they oppose the change, the culture, traditional culture of opposing the digital transformation. I think that not just in Vietnam, everywhere. And in terms of theoretical review of transformation leadership, already very old, 30 years ago, but Bernard Bass, he talked about 4 factors. Yeah? The transformation leadership, it means you need to have idealized influence, yeah, know how to influence the people. Yeah? Second, you need to inspire people to work. Third, that you need to create the intellectual stimulation. The people work, stimulate people to work intellectually. Yeah? Then the fourth, that it is the individual consideration. It means they need to consider the welfare of the people, the motive of the people, and then they work together very well. They call transformation leadership. And many people, they don't want to be transformation because very tired. Because when you stimulate the people, they are very intelligent. You cannot control, you lose your power. If you don't transform yourself, you will lose your power. Because people have critical thinking, creative thinking, they are better than you. They will take over your position. That's why the people don't want to become transformation leadership. Yeah? But in business sector, if you don't transform yourself, you lose your business completely. Very quickly. Because you run multi-billion-dollar company. You don't change, you will lose your competition completely. That's why transformation leadership very important for business sector. Maybe not very important for political sector. Because politicians are a little bit conservative, yeah? And then the case of group, yeah? I met this guy, Ho Minh Hoàng, he's the president of the company. I interviewed him. From the $10 million starting point in 2015 to now they have a $7 billion of capital. He run the business, very small, young. At that time, people think that he's cheating. But I saw he's my friend also. I saw him growing very fast. He transformed everything, transformed the people around him, everything. He transformed his family, he transformed himself. He do exercise, he do everything. Emotion, thinking, physical, knowledge. Every day he talked with the people better than him and then he learned. And then he moved the company from small company to $7 billion company very quickly. And even he's not interested in the political issue, communism. But he want to talk with Prime Minister. He learned the communism, ideology, Marxism, Leninism, so that he can talk with Prime Minister very well. And then he have good connection. He adapt everything to the new environment, yeah? Yeah? That's why he very successful. Yeah? Because many people, they don't like communism, and then they don't want to talk with Prime Minister, and then they lose their opportunity. Yeah? And then he used ideal influence. Every people he talk, he attract people, talented people. And then he motivate them. Not just money, intellectual, everything. And then he have created the intellectual simulation. He recruit the people from the advisor for Prime Minister, the think tank from Germany, from Britain. He learned everything, and then he capture to put the new idea for his company development. He have a connection in US, Europe, and China to do business. He's going to study about the train system in Germany. He will bring to Vietnam because he spent $50 billion for that project in the forthcoming year. And then he have individual consideration. Every people, he consider about their interests, their family, and then they make the people become loyal to him. That is the transformation leadership. Yeah, but he keep the relevant distance between him and his staff. Not too close, because too close you cannot tell them. Not too far, because it's too far, you cannot motivate them. If too close, they don't work very hard. They are not serious. They can abuse you. But too far, you cannot help them. Yeah? That's why the transformational leadership, they need to keep the relevant distance between the leaders and employees. Otherwise, you fail. Yes, you see in the coronavirus, I measure profitability of his company, still increase, still positive. The sales still increase because he proved that he's number one in his industry, and then he can take the project, every project, the big project, all the way come to him. Because the politicians, they are worried that if they don't give the project to him, the project fail, and then they lose their face. That's why they need to give the project to him. In the transform leadership, you always try to be number one. Otherwise, you lose. Number two means nothing. In the transformation leadership, yeah. And then what are challenges? Yeah, he cooperated with Japanese, US, to create the company to make the own kind of technology, digital technology for road, transport, everything, architecture, everything, yeah? But he also have a face of 6 problems. First, the legal challenge, very difficult. In Vietnam, we don't design the kind of legal system for digital transformation. That's sometimes very dangerous, not good, yeah? How to protect property right, yeah? Second, that another challenge that the need to protect internet property right, cyber security, and then especially control resistance within the company. Many people who follow him for 10 years, they cannot follow. They are left behind. How to deal with them? They create a special interest group to oppose his reforming process. That's not simple, yeah? Otherwise, because of digital transformation, you are in halfway of bankruptcy. And the fifth, that the lack of expertise, he doesn't know anything. He always invites the internal, external expertise to work together, yeah? And then they also need to integrate new digital solutions into existing system. Very complex process. From middle level, higher level, lower level, operational level. Otherwise, the whole system collapses. Yes, here we propose this model, yeah? At operational level, yeah? They need to have an information system, how to operate the infrastructure, and at management level, how to manage the system well, and executive level, how to build up the strategy, integrate digital transformation challenges into all the system, from the top to the end, and then we use the structural model to reflect that pyramid of decision making to clarify that without the whole system chain, from the top to the beginning, the company cannot be successful. I think including BSBI. If you don't change the people don't care about digital transformation, we are left behind. Because the China, they are very quick now in terms of digital transformation. And my concluding remark that transformation leaders should encourage employees to think creatively, enhance change the collaboration, and then they need to prioritize diversity, inclusion, and can lead to better decision making. And companies to do clear strategy that include the digital transformation, because many companies don't include, they just talk. And then the digital transformation require new skill, competence. You need a new training for the people here, so that people can adapt the new environment of digital transformation challenges. Yeah. And fifth, that at the model of digital transformation also is create the logical principle for digital leadership, transformation leadership, that to ensure effective planning, implementation, evaluation of digital transformation initiative for the whole organization structure, from operational level, middle level, executive level, and then so that even the investor level, investor know the process, they put the money in your company, and then you become very successful. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I would like to invite our next guest speaker, Mr. Vitek Goyal. He is the founder and managing director of Computect Interactive GmbH, a Berlin-based company specializing in creating XR simulations, right? Yep. Please, welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you to BSBI for having me here to start with. It's been a really interesting day so far. I know I was in some of the talks and learning a lot of information. I'm going to try to keep my talk very simple. So, so my name is Vitek Goyal, and I'm from the company Compitech Interactive. I'm actually from India, but my name is Polish, so you can figure that out. So just to give you a little bit of background, because I think my story also kind of adds up in this weird way now when I look back on it, you know, how I got here and what it means now when we talk about the metaverse and AI and all these new technologies coming in. So I actually, you know, I founded my first company, Pixel Tech, in Mumbai in India in 2004. And back then, you know, the landscape was very different, but also the same. You know, things have kind of stayed the same, but changed. And back then, you know, when I was in India, there was a whole new landscape of this IT outsourcing and this whole kind of different types of buzzwords going on. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, in India, we have such great programmers and great artists and history of culture and tradition, you know, and we're doing all this work in IT, you know, but what about video games, you know, because I was an avid gamer as a kid. And I thought we have all these systems here, you know, maybe we should start looking into gaming. And so in 2004, I set up a company called Pixel Tech. At the time, it was just me and one other person. And slowly, you know, it kind of grew very organically over time. Even though back then in India, there's this big animation, 3D animation bubble happening. You would have companies which would have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary bills every month, managing big projects from Disney and from other companies, but then would eventually shut down. And you know, we were lucky enough to manage to survive because we kept things very agile and grew very organically. But the vision was always the same. It was to kind of bring this idea that we can create games and we can create, you know, really cool 3D art and we can be ahead of the curve. And you know, historically, when we were looking at this industry, we were something like 20 years behind the curve. If you look at the rest of the animation industry, if you say the West, you know, if you look at California, if you look at different parts of, even in Asia, you know, we were still a bit far behind, so we needed some time to catch up. And you know, during this time, I was fortunate enough to work on many games. I was involved in games like Assassin's Creed and a lot of motorsport simulation games. So for me as a fan, I was very lucky to work with all these things. But slowly, as time moved on, we wanted to do something else. And then the time came in 2014 when there's this campaign called Kickstarter, which is crowdfunding. And they launched this new VR device called the Oculus, which came out in 2014. And you know, I picked it up, and now in this picture I'm wearing a future version of the same device. But initially the device was big and bulky, and it wasn't very impressive. But we were able to take this device and start creating content with it because we already had this really good team of game designers and, you know, people making applications. So in 2014, we started working in VR as well. And we were able to take the tools we already have and pivot them into a brand new technology. So this was really beneficial to us. So we were able to almost double our business revenue just by doing this small pivot. And in 2017, we launched the first version of Pixel Spray. And I'll go on and talk about this in a little more detail. I'll show you guys a video. But basically, Pixel Spray is an innovative VR solution that's being used today by almost all the automotive companies in India. And we're bringing this technology to Germany. And it's, you know, it's a VR metaverse-based training solution for automotive workers. And so this is the plan. But you know, what is the metaverse? And I want to get a quick show of hands. Is anyone confused as to what the metaverse is? Okay, got one, good. So I'm also confused about what the metaverse is, even though this is where I work every day. It's confusing because it's such a widely used term. It's also used in the wrong ways. Sometimes it's used in the right ways. But what is it? To be honest, there's no correct answer. The metaverse is a place, it's not a place. It's a thing, it's not a thing. So this is where the lines become very drawn, very weird. But to keep it simple, you know, it is everywhere in a way because it's what makes the metaverse what it is. It's, you know, in gaming, you look at multiplayer games, you know, MMORPGs. This is like the original shell of the idea. You know, if you look at entertainment, you have now Apple launching their new headset. Social media, Meta, Facebook, these companies are all getting involved in this technology. Even retail, I've seen some amazing applications using AR, which is also a metaverse technology. There's companies like Warby Parker where you can wear glasses, you know, Adidas, you can see the shoes just by moving your phone around. So you don't need super intensive technologies to get into this. So ultimately, if you want to break it down, the two things that I think are the most important things about the metaverse is immersion and interactivity. So now immersion, what does this mean? It means when you kind of feel you're in a place, you get a sense of space, you get a sense of being. And in this picture you see they were wearing this device called the HTC Vive. So now obviously this is a full immersive experience, but you can also have the same kind of immersion on a web browser. You know, when you're talking to other players in a digital world. So interactivity, this is important. When you move your avatar around, when you interact, when you pick up objects, and then we get into all these other aspects. We get into haptics. When you pick up something in the digital world, does it shake, does it move? So ultimately, it's about immersion and interactivity. So in the case of business, because this is what I'm here to talk about, this is obviously the Berlin School of Business Innovation. So what does this mean for business? Obviously, we know metaverse for gaming and all these things are there, social media. But when it comes to business, how are people using it? So what's been interesting over the last few years is seeing how this technology has developed into all these different aspects. So there's training, which has been the #1 use case, where you can make VR simulations. So if you're working at an aircraft manufacturer, you can wear the headset and step into a giant turbine and play around and teach each other in this virtual space. If you're talking about safety, we were doing projects for the Canadian Nuclear Society, where they're dealing with these huge nuclear reactors. And if you want to simulate, a dangerous situation, you don't want to do this in real life. You don't want to risk people's lives. So VR becomes a good tool for this. For digital marketing, visualizations, architecture. I've seen everyone from architects to fashion designers use this technology to see their own creations come to life. And it's also being used for helping people in a big way. I've seen some really interesting projects in the last few weeks of people using AR technology for people who have color blindness, where it can then show them how it will see, if people who have color blindness, they see colors in different patches. This can use an algorithm to then generate that, so through their phone they can see what it actually looks like to them. So these are all ways that I can go on and on about this, all day. But I'm just going to show you a video about a project that we did. So this is a company called Mahindra. So if anyone from India is probably familiar with this company, it's a very large automobile manufacturing company, but also, the CEOs, like the Richard Branson of India, he's into everything, So they do everything from insurance to retail and residential, blah, blah, blah. But their bread and butter business was always automotives. So I'm going to play you a video. This was actually made by Mahindra, and this is going to show a use case of the tool Pixel Spray that we made for them.
In today's competitive scenario, Mahindra is triumphant in the global automobile sector. Adapting to the Industry 4.0 standards, Mahindra has set a high benchmark for digitization of its manufacturing processes. Mahindra is the eminent name in premium vehicles realm. Customers have immense faith in the brand, and Mahindra gives their best to live up to the customers' expectations. The look and the finish of the vehicle have a key role in customer satisfaction. The appeal of any vehicle is primarily decided by the painting job of the vehicle. The standard painting training program in the automobile business had certain intrinsic limitations. Training a worker for a skillful painting job was time-consuming. The experience imparted in physical dexterity was not in accordance with the actual painting line. The high attrition rate made it even more difficult to match with the needs of skilled resources.
Development of a car is, in a sense, managing the future. So you have to get yourself into a time machine and figure out what young people want.
Inspired by the RISE philosophy of accepting no limits, Team MVML saw an opportunity to address this limitation. They decided to think alternatively and go beyond the automobile sector to find a solution. As VC virtual reality has occupied today's world, VR gaming is very popular in this generation. In Team MVML, 89% of the workforce is Gen Y. The physical dexterity training of vehicle painting was now being substituted by the virtual dexterity training program. A trainee uses the VR technology to learn the painting during this course.
पहिल्या डेक्स्टरिटीमध्ये असं होतं की 2 दिवस लागायचे शिकायला, पण तिथं असं बी वाटत नव्हतं की मी ज्यावेळेस लाईनवर जाईन त्यावेळेस तिथं मला परत अजून 2 दिवस जायचे.
The module designed by Team MVML enables the trainee to learn painting process in virtual reality scenario.
One person can be trained in one day. So practically 66% reduction is there in training time.
The VR dexterity module not only reduces the training time but also offers environment-friendly and resource-saving training solution.
Here we are not losing any paint because paint is not used in a virtual reality program.
This gives him a real-life experience of painting an actual vehicle on the painting line.
लाईनवर ॲक्च्युअल काम करणे आणि जे इथं काम करणे दोन्हीत काही फरक वाटला नाही. मी डायरेक्ट लाईनवर जाऊन काम करू शकलो या दुसऱ्या डेक्स्टरीमध्ये.
A unique feature of this VR dexterity module is the thermal view mode, which offers the trainee to view the paint film thickness. The trainee gets real-time feedback on the distance from vehicle, angle of painting, ergonomics of actual vehicle, the key point areas of painting, etc. by using this VR dexterity training.
And most important thing is when you paint in virtual reality, then all bending moments, all other type of movement, your wrist movement is taken care.
This helps the trainee to identify and analyze the reasons for defects of painting.
I can proudly say that the defect rate by new painters has gone down drastically.
As the standard of skill set offered by this VR module is set for premium vehicles, the same benefit is passed on to commercial vehicles too.
In paint shop, we have trained around 300 plus new painters with this program, and I am very happy to share that the results are fantastic.
After the successful implementation of VR technology for this training, Team MVML is sure it can be deployed in other manufacturing processes such as engine assembly, vehicle assembly, welding, and safety training. Various other plans of our company have already initiated the process of VR in dexterity training. Mahindra has achieved the global standards of Industry 4.0.
So I'll just skip ahead there because they're getting to the corporate speak now. But if you see from the video, they actually got 66% increase in efficiency, and they trained. And even though this video is now a few years old, at that time they had trained 300 people. Now it's more than 1,000 people, and the software has even improved more. But what's the next step? What are we here to talk about today? We're here to talk about AI. So where does AI come into the picture? So we've been doing some really good research now, and we're very excited about the next step in this is where we can use ChatGPT and we can use deep learning to create these virtual tutors that can now be with you in the virtual space when you're learning, and they can use all the resources of the internet, of all the knowledge to then guide you in a practical training environment. We're doing some great work with some technical universities, and we even have some exciting stuff in the works with BSBI to really help to bring this generative AI and this ChatGPT into some kind of avatar that you can talk to and learn with, not only for business jobs, but also for education. And I think this is going to be the next big step. One of the things is that it will not replace, but it will enhance. I think that's the biggest fear of technology now, is that it's going to replace humans. Even with the stuff we are doing, we're never replacing the human being. We're training them to be better. And so we're going to use this technology like ChatGPT not to replace human beings, but to make us more efficient and more better, and to be more inclusive. So before I end, I'd say one last thing that I love the most about this software that we made is that it's very inclusive. You can learn without any kind of bias. You can learn without any discrimination. It's equal for everyone to learn, and it's very intuitive. And so we want to bring these technologies together to just make this a more inclusive way of living and working together. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it's time to invite the next guest speaker, Dr. Ivan Tankuya. He is a Chief Data Officer at AI Superior GmbH, an AI solution expert, and a data science executive with over 10 years of industrial and academic experience. Please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for a warm introduction, and thank you for having me here. So at AI Superior, we are providing services for corporate sector in Germany, but also startups in US and governmental entities in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. So we have quite an extensive portfolio of AI use cases, and the speech which I'm going to give you today is more about my also experience, but also some best practices in industry. So I will start with the AI project lifecycle. We then move to the risk and the mitigation strategies on AI projects. So we also talk about how to calculate basically return on investment, or basically risk-adjusted return on investment. And then how to make, what would be the best practices in order to make a decision about the best investment on AI projects. So first of all, I'd like to start that AI software development lifecycle doesn't have yet a standardized approach. There are best practices, but there is no standardized software development lifecycle, right? AI development lifecycle has some commonalities, but it's still quite different. For example, we have here data audit and proof of concept, which are essential parts of any AI project, right? Because you need to understand what are the pitfalls and whether the data is ready. So whether the quality of data is good enough in order to be predictive for building AI solution. So AI project lifecycle constitutes from these kind of steps. First, it's a business analysis. It's the same as in software engineering, right? So you start with a business analysis where you try to get from the business understanding what process is going to be substituted, what are KPIs you want to meet, and based on this information, you can move on to the next step, which is data audit. This one is essential step because of the many different pitfalls you might get in when do the analysis. So basically, data might not have predictive power, data might be a low quality, or basically a company doesn't have business processes which basically collect this data, or data pipelines. So once it's done, you go to the most exciting part for data scientists. You start to training the model. And the model training is basically when you run the machine learning pipelines, when you train using PyTorch or any other tools, some neural networks, and this is where you can see the first results in order to whether this machine learning model is able to reach the KPIs you defined on the first step, which is business analysis. So once it's done, model validation allows you to also align with the business and see whether the KPIs are met and the expectation of the business is met. And then you're ready to go to the standard, let's say, life cycle of software development, right? So you integrate your model, which you developed into the existing pipeline, or you actually built it from the pipeline you built from scratch. You use the standard QA techniques in order to validate the software is working. So, and once it's done, you go to deployment phase and maintenance, where you control the quality of your model in production, because sometimes model developed on a Jupyter notebook of data scientists might not reflect the same behavioral when it's deployed into production. And it's important to control and do the maintenance. Also validate the data drift so that the model is not deteriorate performance over time. All right, moving to the risk. So basically, according to Gartner, only 20% of all the POC, proof of concept, go to production. The rest basically dies in the notebooks of data scientists or machine learning experts and never goes to production. And this is basically due to different types of risk, like I mentioned before, technical feasibility, right? So business owner might have some ideas, but they are not viable due to the current technical state-of-the-art technology. So business process readiness. So you might not be able to integrate your machine learning model into a business processes because business might not be happy to adopt it or due to some other reasons. Policy compliance, yeah. So when we're talking about data, I already mentioned data quality and predictive power of data, which is also an issue. On AI model training, so there is overfitting, bias, interpretability gap. All of this was mentioned by my fellows like Georg in his talk, but basically there is, of course, ways to mitigate this problem, but they're important to focus on it. Operational-wise, so it's again about interpretability to explain the decisioning behind for example, for credit risk assessment, you have to explain decision behind every output of the model for consumers. And model degradation and policy changes, which is also possesses some risk on AI project lifecycle. So some ways to mitigate these issues is embedded control for risk management, right? So on each of the phase, you can do some steps in order to avoid this kind of risk, or let's say, to some extent, mitigate them. Compliance with the law and corporate policies. Technical feasibility is in line with state-of-the-art solutions. So it's people who are working in completely different areas have to work together in order to provide this embedded control for risk management over the cycle. So on a design phase, evaluation metrics reflects business KPI. For data audit, as I mentioned, data pipeline validation, minimal data quality. On ML model development, it should be relevant cross-validation strategy or data leakage assessment. Data leakage is really dangerous because it might show you a very good result, but when you go to production, it would actually would destroy your model performance. On the development phase, it's a non-functional requirements. For testing, you have to run data pipeline tests, responsibility assignment during the deployment, and knowledge transfer is an important step. And finally, when you do the maintenance, it's model retraining strategy, model degradation monitoring. So this kind of risk-embedded control would not completely solve all your problems, but at least it would improve this 20% chances to much more higher values. Now, about the return on investment calculation. So basically, it's clear that ROIs, I believe most of the audience knows here that it's basically representing the financial metrics which is used in order to calculate what would be the profitability relative to the invested money or resources. This is, by the way, from Investopedia, so no credit to me. Risk adjusted, but for machine learning project, due to the lot of risks which I mentioned before, we have to use a risk-adjusted ROI calculation. So, and this is a factor. This is a way to factor the risk associated with development of AI project, right? So, so on a high level, simplified way, you just insert this factor of probability of a risk with impact factor, right? And then you basically are good to go. But of course, this probability of risk and impact factor has some really sophisticated way to calculate, and sometimes business is not able to do so. But moving forward, I'd like to also go deeper into understanding how the risk is, or let's say, quality of the model itself can be used in order to, let's say, calculate the business model. It was mentioned by Dr. Monica before, and I think it's a very good analysis she did with Deutsche Welle. So here is something that resonates with her analysis. For example, in this case, you have accuracy of adjusted profit, right, which is basically uses into account the model performance, right, which is qualitative metric itself, and uses the cost of manual mistake for fix it, right? Also, there is a semi-automated process with AI and human in the loop where you use the input from a human. You do not completely remove human from the decision process, right? Human is still there, but it supports the AI system in order to mitigate some mistakes which AI system can be built. And this is done by by analysis of model confidence. Sometimes model is not confident enough, right? If we are talking about binary prediction model, it gives you output from 1 to 0, right? And the values which are close to 0.5, these are values where the model is not confident, right? And in these values, you can use the power of human intelligence, right? You can use expert knowledge in order to help the model to move on forward. So let's take a real example. And for a real example, we take a very simple case. One insurance company would like to automate claim processing, right? So to substitute the lawyer who is basically making an initial analysis and saying whether this claim should go into labor law, whether claim should go into the family law, or it's basically can be rejected at all. And for this reason, we use a model prediction here is 0.9, right? It's a model accuracy. And the cost of mistake that leads to our extra time spent is $200. I've made a lot of assumptions here, and one of the assumptions is human doesn't make mistakes. So even on this slide, I did a mistake. I understood it later on. So it basically should be M hat should be 20 adjusted profit, not 10. Anyway, so this is a simple calculation which allows you to understand how to substitute in a completely automated process with AI versus a semi-automated process with AI. Yeah, and then you can also calculate how fast you can recover your costs, right? Of course, I didn't also take into account here some intangibles for corporate sector like speed of decision, reputation, and so on and so forth. But this is basic simplified way of calculating the risk for a specific claim. So to make a decision, we use a very simplified, not simplified, but standard approach from product managers, product owners. It's a matrix of value complexity and business value. Value complexity matrix, which basically provides from y-axis business value, from x-axis implementation, complexity, and risk. Yeah? And you can see on the top left is a easy win, so-called low-handed fruits, when you see some very easy cases to implement low risk, which are already for a long time in industry, but at the same time they can bring a huge value to a company straight away. So on the top right are most strategic initiatives, so where you have a high value and high complexity. But again, so if you implement them, you might have a competitive advantage with respect to other companies. And yeah, so to evaluate strategic fit, people have to also evaluate strategic fit in order to make decisions about the portfolio as their use cases, determine the value, and access complexity. These are one of the most important steps in order to make decisions for AI values. So this is AI roadmap for customer journey. So this is what we did for one of the customer for marketing department, where we split across department responsibilities, but also risk and complexity is provided by a technical team, while business impact, of course, is provided by customer, their business unit responsible for these use cases. So, and then based on the low complexity, as I mentioned before, and high business impact, they selected a few use cases to move forward for their AI roadmap. Yeah, key takeaways. So be aware of particular particularities of AI project. It's not the same as a software development project. Main recommendation is to use AI team as the team who implements the use case diverse. They have subject matter expertise. They should have also knowledge about the use cases, the impact on the field, and legal team. So manage the risk over the project phases. So this embedded risk control would allow you to reduce the risk of failure of your AI project. And finally, the return on investment is essential part, input for your business value matrix, which you can use in order to be guided on what use cases you have to implement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to present cybersecurity in machine learning of kamikaze drones by jamming and spoofing attacks. I long think about maybe we should talk about everybody know what is going on the border, and everybody know that we can use the machine learning and artificial intelligence to do things maybe wrong, maybe not wrong. Artificial intelligence don't understand what is wrong and what is doesn't. So, okay. Few things about introduction, the normal kamikaze drone mission, because we must say something. I used kamikaze drone because this is every country built now kamikaze drones. France, a few days ago, in big conference, national conference, showed a lot of country builds kamikaze drones. So, jamming and spoofing, this is some kind of technique. I will tell a few words about it. Cybersecurity of them, structure, action of group. So we can tell something about the ROI, and not only one drone now, we can use a group of drones. And conclusion about this, where we are going now in our study. So let's start. As we see, competition of the superiority of modern weapon system in aerospace is permanent. So we have a possibility to automatic target recognition system. We can use a loitering ammunition. Drones can fly automatically according to given program course, and a lot of things what they now. And we know that the drone is cost not too much as tank, for example. So we know why they use it. So the normal kamikaze drone mission is from point 1, I don't know, this is working, okay, it's working, from point 00 to some kind of goal mission, some target X, Y, to the, as we see this trajectory. And it's depends by the weather condition and dynamic characteristic. Everything is depends of program of autonomous underwater vehicles. We think about the drones which can fly and from point 1 to point another. So, two things about what could be happened when we drone from one point to another point. First is the jamming. Jamming is some technique that cancels the radio signal emitted by the GNSS devices, and that can cause a serious problem security. The second is the worst, because this spoofing is an attack that attempts to trick a GNSS receiver. And I must tell you the truth, I made it. Using SDR, software definitive radio, using then in spoofing and jamming. But maybe you don't believe it, so this is some presentation. This is a picture from some kind of software from my phone, you see the point 1, 2. This is the normal road, which is programming to autonomous load. So let's see how this works. This is DJI Mavic 2, very simple drone. And now he starts flying from the home point to the point 1. When he will around now, and just a second, action is going on, and what is, okay, just a second, he must prepare to his automatic fly, and what's going on now? Now we start to jamming, so we generate a software definitive radio, and we see here this is in flight, so the software thinks that he is flying away still, but he is not move. We see that he is going to Greenwich point 00, so near to Nigeria, and we stop attacking him, generating the signal, and what is going on? He will move, finish his mission. But what happened when we not stop attacking him? The fuel will stop, the fuel will finish, and drone will be dropped down. And when drone is up, easy to catch him. So, AI in cybersecurity of kamikaze drone, it serves as support effective tool for KD cybersecurity specialists. Over time, the direction of detecting cyber threats is greatly evolving, so the cyber advisors also not sit still, and AI offer critical analysis that threat detection that can be used by cybersecurity experts to reduce this risk of hacking of them strangest security system. So, in AI cybersecurity of kamikaze drone, make 3 different ways. We have can use the AI can detect machine learning algorithms for anomalies, cyber attacks from the enemy. We can also use the analyze big data to identify parameters, and we can make some analyzing parameter for similarities or difference between what is expected and what is happening. So we have 3 different ways to use in a cyber security. The structure of kamikaze drone with AI, the intelligence components with the control system includes artificial neural networks, genetic algorithm, knowledge-based system. Is a lot of rules we can use. One of them is simple, one of them is more but when we use group of the drone, you see that tongue. So we can perform only the highly specialized tasks, for example, including non-financial devices, each of which decided to perform some kind of action. So they made different things to with a lot of targets. And conclusion. Now, tools based on AI and machine learning should help specialists, not replace them. As every thing what we see. KD vulnerabilities will still exist, so no KD cybersecurity system completely reliable, because even adaptive AI-based system can be fooled by the sophisticated attacks methods. And now we have to think about it, how to, because today we talk about kamikaze drones, and the point from one to another using their automatics route. But what happens when commercial, when we want to travel from one place to another using autonomous, as you said, autonomous car. If you car from one to another point, I will jam you and I rob you, for example. And you don't know that you are going to the wrong way. Because today we use a lot of means of transport, not only flying like here, but we're using transport, train, ships, we're using cars, and a lot of industry thinking about it, how to use it. So we could and make ensure flight navigation safety, development, insurance of necessary navigation, dynamic parameters, development and insurance of necessary navigation parameters to flight control, and of course, when we're moving about the flying, assessment of hydrometeorological situation, because this is important also too. Hope so, not too long. Thank you. Any question? Yes?
Why do you focus on securing the drones instead of securing us from the drones?
This is not only security on drones. My study is going to from the devices which could be jam on spoofing. And drones, it's because now it's easy part to find another device. So we focus on the drones because now everybody talking about the drones, so we try to using something like this. They are using navigation signal, and when we generate strongest signal, we could, as you saw, stop it. And this started from 2011 when Iraq's jam Americans drones, and the same method as I made on this video.
And do these jamming attacks also work on drones which are like bringing themselves to the target with cameras, like with visual detection?
No. Because this is only when I generate signal on the navigation signal from GNSS, for example, GPS, Navstar GPS, or GLONASS, or Galileo. But if you use only a camera object, you don't have all of what about when you go to the tunnel of the mountain or something like this?
So, for example, if a drone uses GNSS, is then jammed, it detects that with the AI, it could technically switch to the camera. And
for example, or using another different technique of navigation.
We have another question from Dr. Lubna.
I wanted to ask if applying some security techniques can affect the performance of drone itself.
Yes, as I told before, we think about use some things to. We use another. My study was focusing on making decision algorithm. For example, Electra, you know what is Electra decision system? So I made some kind, now I'm prepared to learning my algorithm to make some decision when something happened like this. So when some influence will be going to him, and I will see how he will answer for this attack.
Okay, and the last question.
So as you said, we are using this technology to jam the radars, the drones, right?
Yes.
So
as you see, he stopped.
Yeah, the drones are also nowadays developed using AI. So if we are using some technology to stop their signals, to stop their working, would not they have a backup program to avoid this kind of a scenario? Wherein their signals are jammed and they lose their way? Can they also back up using AI again?
Okay. I give you some example from children. You know what is Pokemon? Yeah. You know what is application of Pokemon? Yeah. Yes. I install some kind of program to spoofing my direction, and I can take Pokemon from another country. Not available on this place. So the same like here. We can use it, but if we will jam or make some kind of spoofing of the signal, we need to check another parameters, as flying trains, flying could be flying distance, but we can't check another parameters. When I will jam your phone right now, and you don't have connection to the internet, for sure, when you turn on your map, point will be stay, you will be moving, but point will be stay. And when you use internet connection, they give another information to your software to make connection and different things. So if you use only one type of signal, it's easy to manipulate.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. So today I'm going to present the paper title name is called The Role of Artificial Intelligence in the Management of Human Resource. It is a review paper. So I collected the many secondary data analysis. I used a systematic review. It is not a normal review. I used some Prisma, used some statistical. So here I am going to talk only about what are all the AI, how we are going to implement in the HR functions. So in today's world, if we are doing a business, it's not the easiest one. Why? What is the reason? There are many reasons are there. So there is a lot of competitions, globalization, foreign direct investment. So what are all the important indicators for the business to getting a success? If you want to get a more turnover, so you are the number one business person in this world. Okay, how you are going to get biggest turnover in your business? You need to get more sales. How you are going to get more sales? Because of your customer satisfaction. How your customers are satisfied? Because of your better product or service. How you are going to provide better service or product to your customer? Because of one and only your employees. So you need to manage your employees properly. So that is the reason we introduced in the management field, it is called human resource management. Human monitoring the human. Human monitoring the human in the various aspects. So in this paper, I am discussing how you are going to use the artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence means, you know very well, from the morning we are discussing. So machine behaving like human. So how you are going to integrate these two concepts, AI with the HR. So here, AI means it's a systematic ability to accurately understand the external data. When we are going to manage the human resource, you need to handle the various external data, to learn from such data, and to use those learning to fulfill specific goals, to attain the specific goals in terms of to maximize your employee turnover, employee productivity. That is very, very important. So when a machine imitates cognitive progress, that people typically connect with the other human minds. How we are going to automatically capture others' mind? what your employees are thinking, how you are going to manage your employees. So this is what we are going to discuss here. So there is one of the important paper, Kaplan said it is a categorized artificial intelligence into analytical, human-inspired, and humanized artificial intelligence. Here, what is the need for artificial intelligence for industry growth? Here I mentioned 3 different needs. The first one is role of artificial intelligence in production in support of robotic cooperation. So nowadays, we are using the artificial intelligence not only in the human resource management. The keynote speaker also discussed how you are going to manage the finance, return on investment. In the production also, we are going to use the artificial intelligence in everywhere. Now we are living in the industry 4.0. So obviously, we need to use applications of internet. Applications of internet, so AI, blah, blah, something. Okay, so in the current scenario, so all the business, they are started, most of the business are already transformed into the digitalization. Okay, so if you are not transforming your existing business in digital transformation, it is very difficult to compete with the advanced technology competitors. So the second one is the digital twin. So it is one of the important needs for artificial intelligence. It's a digital twin. It is a virtual representation of real-world entities and processes synchronized at the specific frequency and fidelity. It's transformed business by accelerating holistic understanding, optimal decision-making, and effective actions. So how you are going to provide the holistic your business view? That is very, very important. For that reason, we need digital twin technologies. Then business intelligence in human resource management. So here we are using in all the HR functions like recruitment, orientation, training, productivity, digital interviews, payroll management, training and development, etc., etc. Okay. So what are the advantages of AI in the workplace? So I am mentioning here there are 4 different advantages. The first one is administrative personnel at the corporation have less work. So why we are recruited the HR in your organization? So no one is not simply sitting. We are going to allot the work properly. So what the first point said, in the administrative personnel at the corporation have less work to do because of use of AI. So this is the biggest challenge in the today's business. Okay, when we are introducing the AI, obviously you are going to reduce your manpower. But this is not your one and only the objective. If you want to reduce the manpower, you are not supposed to implement the digitalization or implement the AI technology. Okay, this is a byproduct like that. Clearly understand? So our primary goal is to attain the maximized profit, to provide the better services to your customer. Obviously, in the meantime, your employee level is also going to reduce. AI helps forecast workplace staff retention rate. And this knowledge will help them rethink their workforce activities. Retaining your employees is the biggest challenge. How you are going to retain your employees? So today's world, if someone is giving the better than your existing, everybody is quitting from your current organization. Am I correct or not? So this is the current situation. So biggest challenge to retain your existing employees. So this AI will help you how you are going to retain the employees, in what areas you need to concentrate, how you are going to satisfy your existing employees. Then third one, minimal bottleneck work and error in the workplace. Then last one, enrich employees' engagement and decision making. Then next one, the implication of AI for the effective employee management. So what are the implications here? It is a high level of automation and a strong emphasis on customer experience. Employee who participated in customized engagement expected a positive and a beneficial experience. So purely talking about the customer experience, then AI will enhance the working methods of trainers and project leaders in a company, because it will help develop trainees. We need to concentrate on the leadership side also. So, one of the professor in the morning session discussed how you are going to integrate the AI in the leadership. Then AI will access the structure of the leader's quality and provide them with skill they are lagging, in which area the leaders are lagging, in which area they need to concentrate, what kind of training, what kind of technological updation we need to provide for the particular leaders to update their qualities. The last one, by examining the dashboard, the managers may assess their own performance. It's a self-assessment. Then AI will help you to analyze by yourself. When you are seeing your dashboard, employee dashboard, what is your performance, how you are performed in the past month. So what is your current month performance? Everything you can easily analyze. Then the future of AI in the organization efficiency. In the HR industry has employed artificial intelligence to help employees identify the proper career path. So it is also one of the important role in the HR. When we are working in any organization, how you are going to choose your career path in the future. So AI will help you how you are going to select your career path in the future. Then develop their skills so they can succeed in their current roles and stimulate their desire for higher promotions. The next one, the AI technology may mobilize massive and diverse data set. So we are going to use huge number of data set. That is why we are started to learn the, what is the name is called? Big data analysis. We are using the big data. So we are using the massive data. We are going to compare with the huge data. Okay. So for this reason, we may use the artificial intelligence when we are going to provide the better performance. AI can be employed to minimize the misuse of technology. So we are growing in one side, another side is also we are growing. So how we are introduced the cyber security in this world. What is the reason? We are misusing the technology. That is why cyber security industries are established. So like that, we can easily minimize the misuse of technology using this AI. What are all the unethical practice you are doing in your organization? Unethical practice, use of the shared data, so biasness at the time of taking the decision. Okay. Then AI currently being utilized to lessen the partiality and will help to improve the workplace openness, the transparentness. That is very, very important. So how you are going to select the promotion to your existing employees, in what basis, everything it should be transparent manner. That is very, very important. The organization will then be able to choose the resume, job description can be analyzed using AI software. When we are posting any recruitment advertisement, we are getting huge number of resume. How you are going to select? So those who are names are knowing by yourself, you are selecting. So this is usually happening in the most of the organizations. When you are using the AI technology, everything is based on the what you are going to prescribe. That is very, very important. So last one, now I am in the last slide. So artificial intelligence programs may search and assess resume, removing any that are unfit for the position. So being offered, AI algorithm will be used to screen and narrow down the pool of potential candidate for the current as well as the called for your position, vacancies. Then AI also plays a vital role in focusing on the needs and results of employees. It can analyze, foresee, diagnose, and develop into more competition resource. Last one, AI system will promote a deeper comprehensive of human behavior and patterns. Yeah. So these are all the references I used when I am preparing these papers. So AI is a very, very important for the human resource field. So it will help the HR managers and HR employees to manage their employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And much has been said along AI, metaverse, and machine learning. Now, I'm going to talk about just one aspect, right? I'm going to take flight a little bit, change level, right? From a very high resolution perspective, how we can advance integration of this seemingly synonymous concept in the development of education. Now, precisely, of course, after the introduction, we want to look at AI in education. It's a new line of literature that will look at metaverse in education, machine learning in education. Then what I'm working on currently is how we can design the combination or integration of these different concepts. Now, since the 1950s, a very popular paper, a seminar paper by Alan Turing, the development of AI in diverse areas of human endeavor has advanced. The popular work he did called Computing Machinery and Intelligence, he featured in his famous thinking machine. It's a thinking machine that could fool a human into believing that it's real. Now, like I said, AI in education, specifically want to analyze these three different concepts and how we can integrate them from a design perspective. Now, AI in education has potentials of providing customized and blended learning experiences. What do I mean by that? What some call hybrid learning, combination of online classes in a virtual environment, metaverse we'll call it now, and you also have some students in class. That's a blended learning case. We also have possibilities of having intelligent tutors, personalized learning system environments. Now, talking about metaverse, VTech was trying to define metaverse. I define metaverse as a created world. Because if you look at how these different technologies are applied, what specifically is metaverse? It's this virtual environment where students learn. Or you could have avatars, people have avatars, and we have a case of we're developing a metaverse environment at BSBI, and as you can see here, and this is a metaverse environment, BSBI classroom, and this is also an example of metaverse environment where you have virtual people in the metaverse and also people that are on site. Now, with metaverse, we have key advantages. One of them is that learners are in a cognitive environment. What that means is you have learners in an environment that could be risky if they have to be there physically. And with metaverse, that is possible. You have interaction and without having to meet together. Also, a key advantage of experiential learning and long-term involvement and practice. Learning environments that will be very boring if you have to be in that place physically, and I can see some of us are already getting tired. But if you are in a virtual environment, you can go to the kitchen and take a coffee and come back again and put on your TV and things like that. Such a relaxed environment is what metaverse offers. Now, talking about machine learning, as some of us already know, refers to a type of computer program that can learn by itself without having it explicitly programmed. Of course, AI talks about how machine mimics human, all right? This is a thin line of difference, okay? In the literature, sometimes we say machine learning is a subset of AI, but the thin line difference is that AI mimics, but machine learning is often focusing on a type of computer program that can learn without explicitly programming it, all right? Examples, for example, assessing changes in learning styles or grade of students. Now, the framework I talked about. So I am proposing that if we must advance the use of these technologies, specifically in education, we should start from AI. But they all interact together. Like I said, metaverse is specifically the created environment, all right? Then machine learning is a programming component. So if we start with AI, then we can advance and we can couple these different aspects. And it can be tested, like I said, in a blended learning scenario. Now, what will be the different components? As you can see, we have the data component, the cloud computing, the knowledge component, and services. So the services talks about how it's applied, like we talked about what we are experimenting at BSBI. Now the conversation continues on how we can advance education using technology. Though there could be some challenges, but I would say technology has come to stay. We can't run away from it. So conversation continues. And you look at this. If we apply it in a blended learning environment, we can have avatars, right? Where you go into an environment, and someday it will be that people will steal other people's avatar. Oh, you stole my avatar, you have to pay me, and you have to take someone to court. Yeah, that could happen. Also, possibilities of interaction, simultaneous learning, together with asynchronous in-person learning as well. All this can happen in a blended learning scenario. Thank you. Questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. So obviously the working of AI and faculty together in conjunction is great, but what about when students use it to replace the actual learning process? So when they make assignments with ChatGPT, or they use the AI to make presentations and that kind of stuff, and they're not actually able to demonstrate their actual learning. So would you say that it's a case of changing assessment methods and changing the way that we assess students' actual learning with more peer-to-peer things, or what are your suggestions to solve?
Any contribution to that before I answer? So he's asking if we have to advance the use of technology in education, specifically assessment, that what do we need to change? Is it the way we assess or the grading system? Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, is it the way, like, how do we control students using it to replace their learning and to make their assignments and, you know?
Any contribution to that?
Live testing.
Sorry?
Live testing.
Live testing.
The student must do the work in front of you so that he cannot use any.
You allow students using ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's what he's asking. So,
I'm using ChatGPT on my presentation with the students because I'm teaching too. And I can tell you something about it. Few weeks ago, we talked about various fidelity. There's some networks without. And I asked my students, what is the maximum power of signal? Can you use it? Students don't know it. And okay, you don't know it, you couldn't know it. But we ask this machine what we will tell us. So we asked it, and she told us that the power of maximum maximum signal is 220 volt, not watt. 220 volt. This is the power supply, not the power of signal, maximum signal you can receive from devices. So I think we are very important role now on the teaching what is really, because the artificial intelligence makes a lot of mistakes. Now, maybe future will not, but now works better.
Yes.
I think my answer is that we need to make the tasks more complex and tell them to use the technology, because otherwise they will also fall apart in contrast to other students who have learned to use these technologies. For example, I myself am not very good at calculus. I used a calculator for that in school, but I'm still a valuable part of the workforce, I would say. And I think we have to embrace technology and use it to make them think more complex than before.
Okay, so I will just make one comment.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes.
Okay, please. I think that the way we assess will change. To be honest, technology has come. There's almost nothing we can do about it, rather than controlling it. That's what it is.
We have used it.
Eh?
We have used it.
Yeah, it has come to stay. Like use of your phone. You can't go to work and leave your phone at home. It looks as if part of your body is gone. That's because that's the world we live in now. So the way we grade will have to change. Like he said, we have to then be more creative in how we assess and how we grade. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's again, as I said, we are touching briefly only on the surface so many very important subjects. And we are all the time underlining that we are in this transition time and that we are just right now planning and adapting to this new coming era of, I hope, peaceful coexistence with the technology. Thank you very much for that. And right now we will have the last presentation of this panel. This is the development of the algorithm for the analysis of aerosol using machine learning. Gabriel will be with us online, yes? This is what I understand, Dr. Lawrence?
Yes.
So we will just check the technology.
Yes. Full screen, please. Yes. So can you please share your screen? All right. Now, this presentation is an interdisciplinary work. We have some colleagues abroad. We are going to speak about the topic together. Can you please share your screen? Yeah, share. Just go to share.
Can you hear us, Dr.
Can you hear us?
Can you?
Okay. Yeah, full screen, please. Perfect. So the topic is development of algorithm for the analysis of aerosol using machine learning. Yes, thank you so much. And we have experts from space science, environmental science, and computer science. And it's a work that we're passionate about because we are having major issues of aerosols today in different parts of the world, in industrial zones, areas where there is oil extraction and emission of gases into the air. All right, so next, please. Now, the approach is the use of neural network. And of course, like we have had so much about this, AI generally and different algorithms have been applied in different fields, in stock market, prediction, healthcare industry, for X-ray detection, so on and so forth. And one thing is critical. The algorithm is used based on the task, right? Whether you're talking about healthcare or you're talking about weather forecasting. So the approach is to use neural network algorithm for analyzing aerosols. And it's a new approach because of the interdisciplinary nature. And I will just allow my colleague to just talk a bit about aerosol. He's an expert in space science. Yes, quickly, please.
As a space scientist, we'll talk about the aerosol. We all know aerosol is a suspension of particles in the air. And this aerosol has so many implications. It has so many implications to health. It has so many implications to environmental issues. It leads to climate change and so on and so forth. There are several forms of aerosol particles. We have the carbon, black carbon, we have particulate matter, we have dogs, and have foams, and so on and so forth. But in this work, we are looking at particulate matter and looking at their impact in our environment, looking at their impact in the atmosphere, looking at the impact in our healthcare. Those are the things we are looking at. And neural network, just as earlier said, is a new innovation because this research is a research that is collaborative. We are looking at how neural network can be applied as a space scientist. How do we apply it? Those are the major things we are looking at.
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead, next. Yes, so this is the research method. What was done in this work was to measure particulate matter at different sizes in the air. And with the use of an equipment, and what was done specifically is to measure with a purple air at the Center of Atmospheric Research in the city of Nigeria. And the parameters that were used were dates, specifically days, month, and years. And also locational data, the longitude and the latitude of the locations. And this was the setup, and the whole parameters were integrated into the model. Please, next. Yes, so it's a neural network setup. You have the input layer, the hidden layer, and the output layer. I mean, if you're someone that's like George, you don't like mathematics or something, or calculus, okay, maybe you don't need to look at this slide. But that's a typical setup of neural network algorithm. Next. Yes, so the schematic diagram of this here is a training network. The diagram at the end of the training. Next. Now the result. Specifically, like I said, there are three different sizes, the measurement of particulate matter, and 1.0, 2.5, and 10, okay, are shown. Now the result, obviously, as you can see, shows that there is a similar pattern, okay, and there are three different sizes. But one thing is critical. We had to explore and look at the relationship between this pattern and the weather parameters. And we could conclude that though there's a similarity in terms of the sizes of the particulate matter, what could be responsible is the humidity, temperature, and other weather parameters. Now, this is critical. We need to look at the health implications and also implications of the particulate matter on issues like climate change. So if we begin to explore the implications, for example, the next step of our research is to try to use geographic information system and fuzzy logic models so that we can map patterns of this particulate matter. Okay, so by extension, we can actually predict the kind of health hazards that can be caused at different locations if we visualize the result spatially. Next. Now, the conclusion is that with a high concentration of particulate matter, like I mentioned earlier, there's a great impact on climate change. And the extension is health issues and people coughing. I heard and I also read about it that there are places in China that literally you see particles in the air. And you can imagine the health situations of people that live in such regions. Now, finally, like I mentioned earlier, the further research is that we will use geographic information system. Next, please, to be able to map this particulate matter, and we'll be able to think of mitigation measures. So, thank you so much. Next, please. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
There are questions, so I'll just come to you with the micro.
Yeah. Please stay there as a space scientist. So if they ask me questions I don't know, you answer. Okay.
I have a couple of questions with respect to the model performance and also the input. So usually GPS coordinates are not fed into a network as is. They usually converted into some more high-level information, like distance from one point to another. Mm-hmm. This is the first question. And the second about model performance. What metrics did you use and what is value have you achieved? So,
okay. Good. So the question is, he mentioned that the GPS coordinates cannot be inputted into the algorithm directly, that there has to be some conversions. So you respond to that. The second question is talking about the model performance. Can you speak a bit about the model performance briefly? The first one, you talk about how you make the conversions using the GPS coordinate, right, before you input it into the algorithm. And the second question is the performance. Just speak a bit about the two questions briefly.
Yeah, in terms of the performance, when we are looking at the network training, the data were divided into 3 parts. 70% of the data is just for the training. 15% out of the data is to validate the error. And part of the programming, using MATLAB programming. Part of the programming, we imputed the root mean square error. Those are the errors, those statistical errors, to checkmate the errors before we now, when you are training, we look at a variety of trainings, network 1 to 20. At the end, we look at the error of each of the network, and we'll be able to take the one that has a minimal error in our research. The one you talk about, the input, the latitude and the latitude, it is a programming language that the MATLAB, it was scripted, coded, and the MATLAB scripts converted it before the training.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Good. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Gabriel and the colleagues. All right, so you can leave and stop sharing now. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have that sentence sometimes, it's better to start later and finish earlier, and this is what we've done today. So thank you very much that we are on time at the end.
We have our last keynote speaker with us, Dr. Ari. With Dr. Gemma, they're going to have an interacting presentation. Wow, yeah. So the floor is yours, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, thank you. Today we welcome Dr. Ari Font, a former director of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and ethics at Twitter. I'm Gemma Vallet. I'm professor at BSBI. First question to Dr. Ari. You have an amazing experience in the field of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and ethics. When did Dr. Ari decide to make this a career, and what made you pick this path?
Yes, hi everyone. Vielen Dank, Gemma. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I lost my voice last night, so apologies. Okay. Gemma, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I lost your camera, but I'm gonna keep going until you tell me. So just to answer your question, first, very nice to be here today. I know it's your last session, so I hope it's not too much. But I actually have a non-traditional path to tech and to machine learning. I love to talk to different people in their native languages. So actually, when it was time for me to choose a field of study, I chose translation and interpreting. I actually did English and German. And this forced me to spend time abroad. I spent time in St. Andrews in Scotland, in Bochum here in Germany, in London. And it was during those translation studies that I actually fell in love with computational linguistics, or NLP, for natural language processing. And upon graduation, I actually became a research assistant working in this field in NLP. And this is kind of how I started working on AI and text and speech. And I ended up doing a PhD in cognitive sciences and language in Barcelona. But then I got a La Caixa fellowship, which is a really great fellowship that we have access to pursue grad studies in the US. And so it was about 24 years ago already that I came to the US, first to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I did my master's and PhD at Carnegie Mellon.
Amazing. Second question to you, Dr. Ari. When and how did your Twitter journey start, and how did you arrive there?
Yeah, so after I defended my PhD thesis at Carnegie Mellon, I actually joined a startup that as their computational linguist. And there I actually worked in many capacities, including software engineer, user designer. And then 5 years into it, IBM acquired us. The big data division acquired us. And so I had many roles at IBM, also related to AI and NLP actually, but more on the software side. And so I had a lot of responsibility, a lot of challenges. Every 6 months, I ran interdisciplinary teams, product teams. I was in IBM Research, IBM Watson, really a great experience. And then 7 years into my IBM journey, the Twitter folks reached out, and so I started talking to them. And for me, it was a time when Trump had just been elected here in the US, and I really felt convinced that platforms like Twitter actually had a significant role in it. So I decided to be part of the solution instead of pointing and complaining about the problem. And this is how I actually joined Twitter as director of engineering for the machine learning platform organization.
All of us are really, really curious about how a social network like Twitter works with machine learning, artificial intelligence, and ethics. Can you explain to us about the challenges of machine learning and artificial intelligence in Twitter?
Yeah. I mean, social networks such as Twitter leverage machine learning for several critical tasks, including recommender systems, which what they do is they rank your tweets for each person, and they will basically decide what you see on your homepage. And this is based on who you follow, how have you interacted and engaged with other tweets in the past. There is lots of different signals that these systems, these models take in. And so that's basically what you see when you log into Twitter or any other social media is actually decided by algorithms, but machine learning algorithms. Another key application of machine learning is to detect spam or abuse. So, it'd be impossible to find all the tweets that violate Twitter's policies by hand manually. So there is a machine learning algorithms that are working on spam detection, on abuse detection, and they directly remove things that are very clearly violating the policies, but then they also flag things that they're maybe not sure about. There's some probability, and so those get manually reviewed by humans, but it's a volume that at least it's more manageable, I would say. And so when it comes to ethics and responsible AI at places like Twitter, I think what's key to understand is that these machine learning models, they're trained on previous data of user interaction and user preferences. So your preferences, but also everybody else's preferences. And what happens is, as you know, people are not free of biases. And so we all have our unconscious biases, maybe conscious biases. And so what happens is these algorithms can actually, sometimes accidentally, of course, amplify those biases in ways that are harmful, potentially. So at Twitter, we actually had the Meta team that's called the Machine Learning Ethics, Transparency, and Accountability team. And I was able to take the team and the responsible machine learning initiative to the company level. And so I was able to hire for that team. Really, we ended up getting lots of industry-leading professionals. It was really an amazing team. And a few years back, just to give you an example of what you mentioned, what challenges might occur. So a few years back, we had an incident where, I had just actually taken this team under my wing. So I was fairly new to this. And what happened is, some of you might remember, a Twitter user was sharing his outrage about Zoom not showing his Black colleague when they were having a Zoom call. And so the person uploaded those images to Twitter without knowing what was going to happen, obviously, but then realized that Twitter's algorithm was cropping out the Black colleague as well. And so this was a shock to the person, but also it just went viral. And then people started uploading lots of images with two people, like a dark skin and a light skin. And then it was pretty bad. Like, it really looked like Twitter's algorithm was racist, which it was not racist, but nonetheless, this is what it appeared to be doing. So it turns out we had done a bias evaluation of the algorithm before launching this few years back, and we didn't find any bias. But what was really important is to realize that it was not a matter of statistical significance and tests. It was really more a matter of perception and representational harm. So the meta leaders, myself included, managed to convince Twitter that we shouldn't come out trying to defend ourselves. We should accept that this was bad, that this was harmful to people, to especially minorities that are most vulnerable, and that we needed to look into it and come back with some deeper analysis. So we took it upon ourselves to go very deep in the analysis, look at a broader data set. And indeed, actually, we found that there was some preference for light skin, like 4% preference, and then for even more preference for women's faces, about 8%. And this is the reason why this is happening is because we use the Salient algorithm that really is trained on eye tracking. So why did we find this bias? Because when people look at images, their eyes go to the light skin first or the women first. And there is nothing really an algorithm can do to not learn something that's in the data that's being given to train. So again, it's just a matter of us being good at detecting these things and then seeing how we mitigate them. So in this case, we decided actually, the decision was to remove this algorithm from the product and to give control back to the users to make the decision of how they want to crop their own images, which absolutely, for me, was the right thing to do. So yeah, I think this is a long answer to your question.
Yeah, Dr. Ari, you were describing things that they are quite shocking. How was your daily time in Twitter?
Well, so in addition to building and maintaining the ML platform at Twitter, which involved changing up the strategy that when I came in and just kind of running several teams, mostly in the US, actually, our mission there was actually enabling machine learning engineers across Twitter. There's many different units, consumer, advertising, health, which works on trust and safety and abuse. And so we enabled all of these machine learning engineers. But then also, as I mentioned, I oversaw the Meta team and the Responsible ML initiative. I then hired a director that was a really great director that took over that part and was much more hands-on, of course, after that. But for the time where the crop image incident happened, I was still sort of the leader of that team. So that was a time that was very trying and kind of hard. And my day-to-day was really managing teams and managing problems like this that occur, and that you needed to be very thoughtful and not basically come out defending something that some researchers did a few years back, but the field had advanced so much we could do better now, and we needed to do better now.
Considering your broad experience that comes from IBM and Twitter, how do you see today the industry, where we are now in artificial intelligence in social networks and above all in advertising and in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this last year has not been great for ethics in tech, at least in the US. And I'm saying this because it was a bit over a year ago, but if you might have seen as well, Google fired their AI ethics leads, both Timnit Gebru and Meg Mitchell. And then Elon Musk, when he took over, they fired the Meta team. They hired 80% of my org, myself included. And then that was actually 2 days after the acquisition. So it wasn't as a result of due diligence or anything. It was just more of a knee-jerk reaction or maybe disregard for the mission. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what is in Elon Musk's head. But Microsoft as well ended up firing most of the AI ethics organizations. So again, this to me is pretty devastating. I see, social media specifically, well, I know that other, for example, the Meta, which, Meta as in Facebook, not Meta as in the team that I used to run. I know Meta has a significantly sized team that's working on responsible AI. So this is good, but they don't really make the shots. Mark Zuckerberg makes the shots, so it's far from ideal at the moment, I would say, if I look at the industry. IBM, I think, has a very strong trustworthy AI team of researchers and engineers, and so I think they're doing a really good job there from what I can see and from my time there for sure. But I would say in the absence of leaders who understand the importance of responsible AI, which seems to be pretty widespread, we absolutely need global regulation around algorithmic fairness, to monitor and reduce biases. And so this is something that I see good signs that governments want to apply the learnings from not having done that in time for social media. They want to apply this to the next wave of generative AI, which I see that as a good sign. I see the AI Act in Europe, like obviously a great step. And so we just really cannot leave it up to leaders that seem not to understand the importance of these things, right?
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned Meta. What do you think will happen with just very few large companies such as OpenAI, Google, and Meta concentrating all the power in generative artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that there's a few players that are taking a lot, like basically have the power, the money, and the compute to train these very, very large language models. And so Microsoft joining forces with OpenAI, Google, of course, with their models, and Meta, as you mentioned. But I would say something that's very, very interesting that's happening right now is the open source community is amazing and is thriving, and it's enabling crowdsourcing and innovating in a way that's I think unprecedented. And so we have a very rich startup ecosystem, right now people have access to models that are absolutely incredible, and they're open source. And so even Google, I think there was a memo that leaked out of Google saying that they have no moat because open source is going to eat their lunch. And I think it's really not that far from what's happening. I think these organizations, they have the resources, the compute, they have teams, but everybody out there is very eager to get their hands on it, explore, experiment, innovate, and it's happening. And so I would say it's not how it used to be, where other people didn't have access to these things because they were very closed up. I think it's open source is definitely like a key player. Hugging Face is like an amazing resource, obviously. And so I think it's a very interesting space to watch and to see what happens, but it's not clear to me that they're going to maintain the lead on all these. Like, I think application of this technology really lies in the nodes and in the fields and in the experts that understand the needs, the challenges that they're having. And so if they can actually harness this technology that's open source in a way that helps solve their problems, they're going to do this better than Google or Facebook or Microsoft. And so that's actually why it's so interesting right now to be an entrepreneur in this field.
From my side, we cover, and we think that it's amazing to listen from you that there's still room for ethics in social networks. So if someone has a question for Dr. Ari. No questions?
Everyone is tired.
Yes. So massive thanks for your time, Dr. Ari, for joining us from New York. Now she's based in New York. We are in Berlin now. We are delighted to have you today at BSBI, and we hope to see you back soon. Merci.
Thanks
Gracias.
so much. Thank you.
Okay, so it is finally end, but I think this is also the new beginning, because this was our first conference. I think it was very fruitful. I saw a lot of many interesting papers related to artificial intelligence. But what is artificial intelligence? We discussed also about the ethics, yes? I don't know, maybe you know the film Solaris. Yes, with George Clooney and Natasha McElhone, yes?
George Clooney, everybody knows.
Yes, we all know, yes? But I don't know if you read the book, yes? The book was written by the most famous Polish science fiction writer, Stanisław Lem. And he said that artificial intelligence is a strange idea, because if I decide to hit the computer is not able to give it this punch back. Yes. From the other side, yes, Stephen Hawking said that he is afraid that one day artificial intelligence will rebel and will annihilate the humanity. He said it was more probable than alien attack. Yes? Luckily, he added that such scenario is not possible for the nearest few years, so we are safe. Yes, and what to say after the end? So thank you for your participation here. Yes? First of all, we should thank to Sagi Hartov, who make it possible for us to be here. Thank you, Professor, for sharing your experience and your support. Yes, big applause for Professor. Thank you, Dr. Lawrence, because you were the driving force behind all the activities. And thank you for all the people from IT, from marketing, from operations. Yes, we had also excellent food today. Yes, I'm sorry I can't mention your names because you're so many that I don't want to omit anyone. Yes. We invited also very big thanks to our keynote special guests. Yes, your performance here was great, and I think it was very, very fruitful, very impressive, especially for our employees and students. Yes. Thank you also to students who came here. Yes, it means that you want to participate in such events. Yes. And what can I say finally? Thank you once again very much for your participation. Yes. Thank you to my faculty, and of course from all of you. Yes, and so we're starting to work for the other conference.
Just spare some moment to see all these amazing posters that some of the
Yes.
colleagues did, because as in all conferences, posters are also an integral part
Mhm.
for this success. Please spare some time. If you want more information or to be in contact with them, please email them or email us, and we will provide a
Yes.
network for exchange of opinions and information. And
If you have any questions related to the topics of the papers, please contact the authors. They are open to share your knowledge, to exchange the knowledge and our experiences, because such conferences are mainly for networking, for exchanging experiences. Yes?
And a very important announcement as well. We were successful in organizing in October 23 a TEDx event here under TEDx Berlin SBI. And it's going to be education in the metaverse ? And it's going to be an amazing event. It's the first time that any GAS institution was successful in achieving such an honor, actually, to organize a TEDx event. It will be amazing. We will keep you posted. And because you attended this conference first, I will give priority to any of you, because it will be definitely fully booked, as all TEDx events, to attend in October. So mark the date. Save the date, 27th of October. Okay? Good.
So thank you very much.